information and knowledge of the current reaction done by ArchitectCobra. Theories and ideas said in this video may be 100% wrong and may be guesses. For those of you who are lore Nazis and wish to ruin the show for ArchitectCobra for giving him information that you would only get from future episodes that he has not gotten to yet, then I suggest you turn this video off now. This is not the video for you.
Hello everybody and welcome back to a new fairy tale discussion video. We haven't done this in a long time.
No, we haven't.
Yeah, we've kind of held off for a while. But this is episode 20 of fairy tale discussions. Last time was episode 19 and that was like months ago. It's just like whole months ago that we did this.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, fairy tale has been taking its sweet time, so we can take our sweet time as well.
Indeed. So we are doing another live discussion. We've done one in the past with Frodo as well, with Kickass as well. Sadly, Kickass is not going to be joining us this time around. He's had channel issues and that kind of thing on his end, so sadly he won't be joining us. But we have Try up at the top, top left for me. Tommy above top right, and then we have StealFrodo right next to me. My camera's backwards on Discord, and it's really throwing me off, like where to point.
Yeah.
So me and Frodo will not be reading chat whatsoever because of spoiler reasons and so on and so forth. So Tommy and Try will kind of be reading for us, and if anything comes up, like questions and so on and so forth about the topic at hand, they can go ahead and just relay it to us, and then we can kind of go off there kind of thing. We are expecting one more member to join us as well, which is Rilu, who have been in other Discord fairy tale discussions in the past. But he's kind of just MIA right now when I show where he is. But he, if anything, he'll just kind of pop up in the middle and just be like, "Hey guys," kind of thing. So, yeah. Where would you like to start off? We have a lot to kind of go over in terms of like the overarching, 2018 branch kind of thing.
So we haven't really talked to because the last time we talked was just before Zero, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it was before Zero. We never talked about Zero at all.
Yeah. No, I don't think Zero hadn't even dropped at that point, had it? Or had it started, but we weren't. I don't remember what it was.
I can't remember. But I think it was before Zero, because the last discussion was like 260 something. That was the discussion. The last thing we did was 260.
I think so, because then it was it was just like, because I know I did Fairy Tail Zero reactions and then went straight in. Because I mean, I guess we could start with technically Fairy Tail Zero, but where the final season technically started, where it was like, here's all the stuff that happened in the past. Now we're on to
the two
the ones that everybody told
276 and 277. The when Natsu and Lucy kind of run around.
Yeah, that was a weird launch time.
Yeah.
But anyway, because it was I liked with the way that it actually started. I did like the fact that it kind of feels like they wanted to start the final season the way they started the series, like with them starting an adventure, that was really cool. Like when I watched it, it was definitely that kind of like, oh my God, I remember this,
it matched up significantly. I watched the side-by-side comparison of both episodes, episode 1 of Fairy Tale and then episode 277 side by side. It works so well. It was
they played
1 to 1
nostalgia. They played really well into nostalgia. It was funny too, because when I was watching it, there were points, because I went back, I've been rewatching a lot of the early seasons, which, by the way, first opening still my favorite opening, period, just for the nostalgia reasons. I mean, I realized if you've been watching this from the start, you know that this series has been in dub going on for almost 9 years now.
Yeah.
But,
crazy.
I liked the fact they matched that up. I love the fact that they just played to it has been a year, the characters, which every time jump, it seems like the main cast doesn't really change much. They get more powerful, but character-wise they don't change. Whereas during the 7-year jump and the 1-year jump, everybody kind of stays the same in this 1-year jump. So it doesn't feel as dramatic.
Right. There's not too much change. Just I think if anything, a bit physical changes here and there to some degree with some characters. We thought a big character change was gonna be for freaking why did I forget his name? Gray. Because he was on the dark side of things. We're just
oh my
whoa.
gosh.
That's what we thought, anyways.
And also, can we talk about Natsu's hair too? Like that being changed back to normal. Like, oh, I
I
hated
loved
that.
his hair. Yeah, his hair was
Yeah.
Yeah, me
amazing
too.
in the year change.
Yeah,
I
like
wish they would have kept that. Yeah.
I liked his.
Yeah.
I honestly liked the whole character theme. He seemed more like Gildarts, with
Yeah,
his
yeah,
training method. Like I loved his look and overall like get up. It
yeah.
looked like it had been a rough year for him, but he got really powerful. So
And
But
we
I
know
want to
we
ask
know
you.
now as well is because his
mhm.
the tattoo on his arm was
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's had that on his arm.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure he had that wrap this entire time, right?
The entire
yeah.
time, yeah,
The
Yeah,
entire time. The moment
yeah.
he came back, he's had that bandage. Did you
right.
guys? I was gonna ask you guys. Did
Mhm.
you actually notice the bandage right from the beginning?
Oh yeah,
I,
immediately because
oh
I saw the bandages that he had around his chest and I saw the one on his arm. And when he first showed up, I'm like, oh, okay, that's just his training getup or whatever. But then once he got a haircut, they cleaned up and everything, and I saw that he had taken the one bandage off. I'm like, why is the one still on his arm?
Yeah, yeah.
Because yeah,
I
like
always
little
just kind
things.
of I guess I just overlooked it. I remember seeing it like
Yeah.
once or noticed it once twice kind of thing, but I just kind of always kind of
Mhm.
shrugged it off as like that's his style of choice, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
figured it was
Yeah,
character design. Like I figured it was after it stayed for like the first 4 episodes. I'm like, okay, it's just character design. But then at
yeah,
a certain point, when he was, I thought it came back into like my mind as something that might be important when we're introduced to Brandish, and he's like holding his arm, and
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, oh, maybe it
Yeah,
is
so
important.
right, yeah. I love that moment. It's like so subtle, like him like possibly like wanting to use it at that moment, but like
Yeah,
holding it back. Yeah,
yeah. Well, and I want to
truly.
know with you guys' opinion because this was kind of something that I thought was really clever that they did. Apparently, a lot of my fans hated the first arc with the Avatar. What did you guys think of the fact that Avatar was basically just a pushover guild and a pushover arc for the main characters? Like, what did you guys think of that?
yeah. I mean, a bit basically. I mean, most characters it seems that way, where like they're like this kind of big overarching like badass guild. Everyone's like, don't screw with
Hmm.
them, like they're gonna kill you and all this kind of stuff. And then Fairy just comes in and just power of friendship just bull rushes through their way. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like what happens to all groups, but
Hmm.
them especially, it seems it was very quick. Like it was just like everyone just getting knocked out very quickly and very
Yeah.
easily. I mean, even the giant like monster like god beast thing that they summoned, like even that was
Yeah.
like defeated like very quickly. So
Yeah.
it
My
wasn't a threat.
because my thing was, and I kind of got with. I think they probably could have. I think the weakest part of that was the timing, because I get what they were trying to go for with the way that they portrayed the characters. Because what I think, well, what I feel like they were trying to do was have they were trying to have this kind of look how powerful our characters have become in this year, and I think they did a pretty decent job of portraying that, like these characters who are a don't mess with them kind of threat, these guys can just annihilate because it's been a year, they've had nothing to do but train. And so I think if it had been timed a little better, like a little more time with each of the characters, almost like One Punch Man style, where it's like the fights drag on a little bit, but
Yeah.
that they're not in any major threat, I think that would have helped. But I definitely feel like they did a good job of portraying, like, look how strong these guys are. They just didn't do it in a good time. Like,
Yeah, I think that was definitely the main thing. I think
Mhm.
for that arc was just trying to showcase like how far everyone had come during the
Yeah.
1 year gap. But like
Which
it doesn't help that the guild that they were fighting were like literally like a bootleg version of Taros because
it was, yeah.
they're just doing the same thing, like Zeref
Yes.
above all else and all that stuff. But like we
Yeah.
just had Taros and they were so much cooler, so I
Oh
think that
yeah.
didn't go in their favor. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the idea, was they were trying to give a sort of Tartaros parody in a way, but like because once you come from fighting like the demons of like the demons of the books of Zeref, like I think that the scale of those enemies, like I'd like to see the scale of Tartaros to the
Yeah.
scale of the Spriggan 12 now, as opposed to, and I think that's the other thing, is like you have such a high scale that it's like, okay, so now I'm confused, like are these guys as powerful or more powerful than Tartaros or less powerful.
I think our gauge for that is basically the fairy tale members fighting with like the enemy. That's our scale, right? It's just like how much effort do they need to exert to defeat the said enemy of that time, kind of thing. So for mostly for the Tartarus guild, it was mostly kind of Natsu, Gray, those kind of the top tier people kind of doing it. But with the Spriggan, it's everyone. It's every guild member, every guild in general, like coming together, kind of thing, to fight him. And like there's like one member of each, and like one kind of section of the army coming towards Magnolia, kind of thing. So. I think that does kind of that scale on it is like one member can like defend against like 4 groups or 2 groups depending on what the side is, basically.
I think that's a really good point, because if you look at Agil, the sand guy, like it took both Urza and a full-on blast from Jupiter to take him out.
Yeah,
exactly.
It definitely feels like a kind of by committee thing to take out each member.
Yeah,
it's cool because we're definitely seeing more of a, like, we always have a team dynamic with Fairy Tail, but it's never been like everyone. It's been the team dynamic of Group
the main
A
5
and Group
or
B. Yeah.
Wait, 5 or 6? What? The god.
Urza, Natsu,
Is that a count?
Wendy. What?
It's like I had a count. It's just like it's Natsu. Yeah, Natsu, Wendy,
Natsu,
Urza, Lucy, Gray.
Carla
and
and
Happy.
Al, I guess, and Happy. Carla counts more than Happy at this point for
Yes.
me, because she can actually fight.
Am I missing
and then you got
anybody?
the
The main group? I guess it. Yeah.
No, you got him. But then
So
you
7?
got the B. Well, yeah, and then you got the B team, because the B team would be like. Well, they've definitely put more of a focus on the B team now with like Mira Jane, Elfman, Lizana, Levy, Panther Lily, and Gagio. Oh, and Juvia.
And Juvia, yeah. That's definitely B team. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we've sort of always been with like Team A this entire time, kind of thing. So having a big kind of overarching like badass battle like versus an enemy kind of thing with Team B, like as well as Team A, as well as everybody else in Fairy Tail, and like it's really cool. It's really cool.
Plus, seeing Mavis actually sort of. I mean, we kind of had a taste of the whole fairy tactician thing right up until it was coming from the other side.
Yeah,
I never would have thought of that. It's like, okay, cool. Like, good to know you're the great fairy tactician who can think of everything from the other direction.
I did think it was kind of weird that that she was bamboozled, like with like a strategy kind of thing. She was just like, I don't know what to do. Like she was like freaking out there for a second.
Yeah. Of course, all it took was Natsu dropping in and being like, "I'm gonna just fry." Somebody pointed out in the comments that like I make a joke, which I try to make a joke every time, like somebody like especially with like Urza, where it's like, oh yeah, no, she's not killing people, she's just hitting them with non-lethal sword strikes. And then somebody left a comment. It's like, I like how you say that when Urza is fighting with a sword or using magic, but when Natsu burns people, oh, they're dead immediately. I'm like, well, yeah, because when Urza takes people out, there's somebody left. He burned an entire middle section of an army line. Like I would consider that dead.
The strongest idea of that is when we first saw him in 276, like after the skip, when he came back into the arena, and he just scorched earth the entire place, melting stone, and everyone just like lost their clothes. Like that's all that happened to them. It's like, oh no, my clothes. But it's just like in reality, if that would happen, melting stone level of heat, like
like
you'd be dead. Like yeah.
Plus, I love the fact that they do a fairly good job of showing characters growing. Like that, it was way easier. Like I feel like they're getting into like Dragon Ball Z levels of like power up to this, but they've always done a pretty good job of that. And what I liked was thinking back to how challenging the Grand Magic games were for the whole Fairy Tail group. And then Natsu shows up and basically just like one punches the entire group of winners, like just like,
well,
we're done.
that was mainly, I think Lucy kind of said it best, like, or I don't think Lucy said it, or I think it was just the idea that like that year of games Like none of
Yeah.
like the main guilds were there. It was all kind of
No.
like the B team, you know, the
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
people who failed the Grand Magic Games first stage. Like all those
Right,
people, like
yeah.
it's
Right.
like
No,
all
that's
of them
true.
getting thrown into like the end game essentially, like kind of
Yeah.
games and such. Yeah,
Because
because like
which also
none
goes
of
to
the
show
major
how
games.
yeah, and it shows how influential Fairy Tale is on the world at large. Not only because obviously they're the main guild because that's the show name, but like they are very influential because Fairy Tale disbands and everybody's just like, well, all right, I guess we don't really need to do anything now. But like when Fairy Tale's around, it seems like every guild member of Fairy Tale pushes every other guild that they interact with to better themselves. Like think of like with Sting and Rogue from like with and not even just their guild, but like Lamia Scale, all of them. They
Sabretooth,
when
yeah.
they interacted, Sabretooth, yeah. When no, I meant like Lamia Scale and Sabretooth and like all the other
Right.
guilds that interact with Fairy Tale.
Yeah.
When they interact with Fairy Tale, it's like, oh well, maybe we should improve and be better. When then Fairy Tale's not there, it's just like, yeah, we're not even going to bother fighting in this game because it's not worth our time.
Yeah,
Fairy Tale's
they're
there.
not gonna try. I think that was the main thing that like that was just like so overwhelmingly like in the favor of like friendship for like Fairy Tale was the Grand Magic Games,
Yeah.
because like everyone was like wanting to well, like do the Grand Magic Games in defense of the ones who were sit there for like 7 years kind of thing, or
Yeah.
whatever. So they wanted to like to help them out kind of thing, because everyone said like the Fairy Tale's like the weakest guild and all this kind of stuff. So they did it initially for the members who were stuck in the past or stuck in the
hmm
present, whatever.
Frozen in time.
Frozen in time. Yeah, so they did it for that reason, and then as they went throughout the games, that's when they started finding more reasons to do it and like do it more, and do it better and do it better. Like with Lucy getting attacked and Wendy getting attacked,
Yeah.
and like all these other reasons that kind of cropped up as time went on in the games. It just kind of kept adding to the overarching kind of like we need to win, kind of thing. So
Right.
that was just kind of just kept piling up on each other until they actually succeeded.
Yeah.
So
But now,
Yeah.
like with that thought, like with that mentality, with the whole working with Fairy Tale, of course, I always have this kind of weird like I don't feel like every enemy that you encounter needs to become your friend, even though that seems to be in general what Fairy Tale does. But like with this arc, it actually works to their benefit because you've got Mermaid Heel, Lamia Scale, Sabretooth, Blue Pegasus, all of them now joining the fray
yeah,
and fighting, which is awesome. Though I'm worried with so the most recent episode or the episode before where we're roughly introduced to Bloodman, one of the Spriggan 12, and he's going up against Sabretooth. And of course, everybody's like, "We don't watch the opening; it spoils everything." But it's kind of like, I'm guessing that the shot in the opening of Sabretooth up on the crosses and all that.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
probably what's gonna happen.
I have a feeling
Yeah.
that's gonna happen to them. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just like the previous episode had that was when Blood Moon showed up. Basically, that was when we saw
Yeah.
him. Was the previous episode. So he was attacking Sabretooth's cannon fodder, or whatever we call
Yeah.
them, the just like the kind of background characters.
The random guys.
And they were kind of running towards the main Sabretooth gang, or I guess in this
Yeah,
case
yeah.
it was shoot, what was her name?
Yeah.
The key holder
Oh.
of Sabretooth. White hair.
Yeah. I know.
What was her
Yuki
name?
now.
Yukino, there we go.
Yeah.
She was she was fighting a couple guys here and there on her own, and then like
Mhm.
the people were running towards her. But the guys died of, I think, or something like that. Like something happened to them, got
Yeah.
attacked or something like that, fell over, and
Did
then
you see their eyes?
yeah, exactly.
Like the
That's
veins
kind of
around
like
their eyes?
that's kind of thinking like, did they die or did they just kind of like pass out or like so whatever it may be kind of thing. He was attacked
Mhm.
at range, basically,
Yeah.
while running away,
They-
and then we kind of transferred over to look at Blood Moon. Like it looks from a distance, kind of thing. So his power does
wondering-
seem at range.
Yeah, that's the weird thing because I'm wondering based on his name and based on what we saw with the cannon fodder, I'm wondering if his magic has something to do with like blood, like some sort of blood control. Like it reminded me a lot of from Avatar, not
The council guy or whatever.
Legend of Korra, yeah, the council guy who could do blood bending.
Yeah.
Like that,
Yeah.
I saw that, and I saw because I'm seeing his name, I'm seeing like all that. I'm just like, okay, well maybe
they referred to him as the Grim Reaper. Yeah, so a lot of death and like kind of blood related like themes with him. So I wouldn't put it past him to do some kind of like blood kind of thing. Didn't we have somebody in the past with sort of like blood stuff? I mean, I know when the demons was like all about like regenerating the corpse of a dead person, but like blood specifically, like have we ever had anybody just like straight up just blood, kind of thing? Like I feel like there was somebody, but I don't remember.
Gray used blood ice at one point.
Gray used blood ice.
And to try to counteract the time magic.
I don't think we've ever had someone straight up using like a blood magic or something like that.
No, I think the closest thing. Well, no, that was. I keep thinking to the Tenra Island with Precht with his. That was something else. That was not Heart of Darkness. That's a movie. On the ship, the dark
heart
thing. Yeah, I was thinking about that.
The Grimoire Heart.
Grimoire Heart
is what they called it. Yeah.
I always get that one and one of the other Grimoire Heart, and what was the one with one of the early episodes or one of the early arcs? That's not
the Walking Fortress.
Yes, with the guild, them.
The Phantom Lords.
Yes, I always get Phantom Lord and Grimoire Heart mixed up.
Yeah.
And oh man, do I hear about it?
Understandable.
Speaking of hearing about it, has anybody asked anything in the comments, or is it mainly just like chat lines?
Yeah, there's no
Tommy. So there's some people making fun of you just for fun, including me. Questions. There's a lot of spoiler chat going on with Tommy included.
Nice.
Obviously.
Cool. Appreciate it.
with Tommy. Tommy's like the spearhead of it all, too. So if you don't know people
just likes to stir the pot.
if you guys don't know who Tommy is, he does manga reviews and kind of reactions and so on and so forth on his channel. So I wanted to ask you, Tommy, regarding the Avatar arc in particular, was there anything left out from the manga compared to the anime rendition of it?
I don't think so. I think it was a pretty like good adaptation. Like the arc in the manga was only about 20 chapters or so, I want to say. So I think they pretty much got everything that they needed to out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I didn't notice anything being cut out or anything.
Yeah.
Was there any
manga had better animation?
I did notice the scale. I did read that chapter of the manga once I got through that part of the season, and I did notice that the scaling for the god that was called down stayed. Oh, I don't know what the word would be. Consistent. Considering it was like, considering it's like Natsu, like the god like steps down and like the people look like ants, but then Natsu goes to climb up his arm and he's like the size of like a good chunk of his arm running up. I'm like, yeah. So it definitely felt more epic with the punch that destroyed him. It definitely felt more epic in the manga because it was like this little tiny guy like up on his head destroyed the whole thing. Whereas it's like,
what about other parts of like Fairy Tail 2018? Has there any been like major things that we've seen so far, kind of thing, that have been left out in the anime compared to the manga? Has anything been like just overlooked or passed, kind of thing?
I don't think so. I feel like Fairy Tail's always been pretty good about like consistently adapting what's in the manga like fairly well into the anime.
Okay.
I can agree with that. Like the old stuff, I know some of the early stuff. There were a few like small things left out. One of the things that I did think was weird was when we were introduced to the four Ishgard, whatever the main four wizard saints.
Yeah.
And the one dude, it's like, he's got milk now in the anime. It's like, Okay, like because wasn't it? I think it was wine in the actual like episode, right? Or in the episode, the manga, wasn't it?
Oh wait, and it was wait. You're saying it was blood in the anime or something?
No. It was milk in the anime. Wasn't
Oh
it like
really?
wine or something in the manga?
It's probably for like
Oh
censorship on TV, kind of
I
things,
guess,
but
but they. I mean, but then I
because
think
didn't in Tartarus, wasn't there that scene when Urza was getting tortured? Was in the manga she was naked in it, but in the
oh
anime
yeah.
she had
I,
clothes
I
on,
guess
kind of thing.
mostly like
yeah.
you could argue like mainly just censorship. Really, like they do a
Yeah.
lot of that, but like in terms of like that scene in particular, like they adapted it like fairly well. Like Urza's
Mm,
torture scene. I thought it was actually even better in the anime, to be honest.
mm.
Um, but actually, I like talking about Avatar specifically. What did you guys think about Gray's whole like being evil? Like, did you guys actually believe it for a second, or?
I thought it would have been a good twist on his character, because he's
Yeah.
always been like this kind of, in a way, cold shoulder like to everything.
Yeah,
But
Pretty
to have
much.
like him, like it would have been really interesting for him to, because like that was like mostly his father's dying wish was to defeat END.
Right.
So it kind of in a way made sense that he would kind of go down this road, kind of thing, like just like his father
Mhm.
said it, and like everything, like his father was dead up until very recently, and it told him to go after END, and like all this kind of like mental like attacks like to his psyche, kind of thing, like that could
Right.
definitely lead him down this road of like do anything to do it, kind of thing. So I
Yeah.
definitely didn't put it past him to go down that route. It would have been cool
yeah,
if he stayed that route, but it did seem very quick, like 2 episodes to like find him, deal with him, and then he's like discovered as like an agent or
Right.
whatever kind of thing.
I
So
felt the same way because it was because there was a point when it was first kind of showed off. Like it was so many emotions. It was I had this like I had this thought of like, well, I mean, he did suddenly acquire the powers of a demon, but then I was like, wait a minute, that was Ice Demon Slayer magic, so
yeah,
that
yeah.
wouldn't be because there's maybe the demon took over his heart, and I'm like, oh yeah, the thing of like no, because
some kind of
like it
corruption,
was
or yeah.
yeah, because his dad was technically not a demon. He had Ice
He
Demon Slayer
he
magic.
he essentially was a zombie, basically.
Yeah, he
Just
basically was.
a little bit more fresh, or
Yeah.
it wasn't rotting, or whatever like that. Yeah, he's
Right, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, he keep things fresh for a long time when they're cold. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it would have been interesting if they would have dragged it out a little longer, but
yeah.
I don't hold it past any of the fairy tale episodes or any fairy tale at all to build proper suspense, because like especially with when they did the faces and Wendy and Carla destroyed the faces, and I think I ranted about this the last time we talked, when I was like, they could have had her destroy the faces, explosion, episode over, and then 6 episodes of
Exactly.
no
Yeah,
idea what happened to her, and then suddenly she's back, and it's like
because
that would have built suspense. And
there was a point
yeah,
where like they died essentially, and then like a
yeah,
couple seconds later you can see Mystic and step in. But like there was a
Yeah.
time where we went a couple episodes and then we jumped back to see what Wendy was doing. That would have been a
yeah.
good time to kind of like say like, oh, they're still alive,
Right,
whatever.
like literally
And then
the
like
scene that they
a quick
showed. Yeah.
flashback of him like saving them, kind of thing. So
Right. Like they
yeah,
literally could have, the scene that they showed of her being saved could have been left out until the 6 episode gap when she came back, and then been like, "Swoop, there she is," and it's like, oh, she survived, good, and now I actually feel fulfilled as a viewer, as opposed to just like,
yeah,
what's gonna happen? Never mind, I know what happened now.
yeah, yeah. There have been a lot of spacing, or spacing with a couple
Yeah.
character stuff. Like it seems like at the start of 2018 when they started back the series back up again, it
Mhm.
seemed like it was pretty much either 1 to 2 episodes was like dedicated to each character when they kind of like recruited them back to the group.
Yeah.
Like Wendy, I think it was It was pretty much like 2 episodes, I think.
Yeah.
Roughly 2 episodes, and maybe like a
Urza
third
was
kind of
maybe
like a
an
little
episode.
trinket. Yeah, Urza. Well, Urza in a way kind of came over with Gray. So like
Yeah.
Gray's was like 2 episodes, and then like after that we're like the cliffhanger was like the phone call with Urza basically.
Right.
Yeah. So
I did like how that technology, though, they show that technology and it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so convenient because they now have phones. And then immediately after that, when they get into the new war with the war against the Spriggan Empire, it's like, oh, well, I guess now they'll just use his telepathy again.
Yeah, pretty much. I do
Cool.
like that in that 1 year he developed this technology himself. Like he
Yeah.
made the technology like that they used there with like the phone
Yep.
and all that kind of stuff. That's a good kind of like character development kind of
Yeah.
push towards his way.
For a character that nobody cares about, but it's awesome. It's like, cool.
I mean,
They're
he's
still
very
using
useful.
it.
He's super
Yeah.
useful. That's one thing.
They're
Yeah.
still using his technology because they're using it for the radar to see how screwed they are as the Spriggan army comes, and
Yeah.
it's got whenever they show up, it sets off a car alarm.
And I love how every single time someone wants to get someone else's attention, in like telepathy wise, they would
Scream
just
at his ear.
yell at him, and he's like, "You don't need to." I love that whole thing.
Note
Poor
to self:
guy.
if magic is a thing, don't learn telepathy magic because you'll go deaf.
Yeah.
You just get yelled at constantly.
Like you'd think, because like they established, I'm pretty sure it's established that like he can just make the link so that they can just talk to one another, but then they still come to him like he's a microphone and
Yeah.
yell at him.
Yeah.
So
That also must be really annoying for Cobra, having to listen to things that he probably doesn't want to listen to.
I wonder
Oh my
if he
gosh.
can hear telepathy. We haven't really delved into that really, like in his the way he hears things. I mean, I know he can hear thoughts, so maybe he can
Yeah,
hear
I would
telepathy through
assume-
somebody else. Like
Isn't that
if
kind
they
of just telepathy?
yeah.
Yeah.
If he can hear thoughts of somebody who is linked to like a whole group of people, then maybe he can just kind of tap into it, without having to worry about it.
Question is,
Yeah.
would he want to or care? That's the
Yeah.
thing. Like,
Yeah.
I know. So one of the things I was gonna ask earlier was, so how does it feel to know that essentially the main reason why the Thunder Legion is out of commission is thanks to Ichia?
Me and Shark. Well, I guess I can't remember if Shark like enjoys Ichia. So I'm not sure, but I can't remember who it was that I was watching that was doing reactions to the
Yeah.
Ichia episode. But the moment he showed up, like me and a couple of people, they were just like, "Oh God," it's just like he's back, kind of thing. But I mean, he had a little bit
I've
of like
returned to ruin your episode.
he came back with like a little bit like a redemption episode kind of thing for his character in a way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's just a little bit too cheesy the way they did a couple things with his character
Yeah.
in these episodes. Like he was around.
Yeah.
It was cool to see like his kind of like in a way background when the Thunder Legion was recruited like by Fairy Tail to fight this battle. Like him just being there, and no one ever like looking at his way or whatever like that. So that was pretty funny. But
Yeah.
I think
Cobra,
it
may I?
Yeah.
All right. 2 things. First of all, Ichia is obviously the best character. He does not need to be redeemed.
Stop.
Secondly, I think the Thunder Legion will be fine considering Lox is still standing and he's 99% of their power.
pretty much.
That's fair. Yeah. I still loved with oh gosh, I always forget his name. What green hair.
Freed.
Freed, yeah. I always forget his name for a second. I love with Freed. It's like, Loxus is here, and it's like, enjoy my Thunderpaw room, and it's like,
That was-
no, never mind.
That was one of the cheesy moments. I was just like, oh my God, like the lightning was not yellow, it was blue or whatever it was. So like immediately I was like, it's not him.
And like seeing a hairy leg with shorts and loafers, I'm like, that's not Loxus.
Yeah. The other cheesy moment was when the Thunder Legion saved, like, their put the bodies on top of like
Yeah.
him to like shield him. Like that was just like not necessary. Like I'm sure Free could have just whipped up something to like a shield barrier, something like that real
or
quick.
something.
But yeah, I don't know.
That actually reminds me. Speaking of Ichiya, that I was watching this guy react to like fairy tale openings recently,
Mhm.
and he watched the sixth one, and I believe the sixth opening Fiesta is like Ichiya's first opening, and Ichiya just pops up, and the guy is just like, "What the? Who the hell is that guy?"
Who is that? Yeah. Ichiya is. He. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the one thing we haven't really seen too much yet is Ichiya Cat. We've seen him in the battle. He's there with.
What
That's a
guild is
good
he
thing.
in now?
That's a good thing.
He's in.
It's not Sabretooth, is it? I think it
He's with Leon's guild, I believe, if I'm not
is he, because
mistaken.
I thought he was. I think because last episode I think he was marching. I seem to remember he was
No,
marching.
no,
next to
he's with he's in his guild, the Pegasus, I believe.
Is it Blue
I think he
Pegasus?
joined Ichiya's guild.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think he did.
Yeah.
Mm. God, can you imagine being
But
in a guild with those two?
Yeah.
Good morning, guild. Hello.
I
Like,
just
oh,
don't remember
that's,
where he is in the battle because I know Ichiya's like at the church or something like that, but then the rest of Blue Pegasus are
Yeah.
with Sabretooth.
Yeah. Oh, that might have been why I was thinking I saw them next to Frosh, because they were both marching in at the same time.
Yeah, and
'Cause-
they're up to the north. They're in the
Yeah.
the snowy area of
Yes.
Magnolia. Yeah.
Which is cool to see how they're like actually really, without having Fairy Tail go to that area, they're showing more of Fiore
Yeah.
through other guilds. I really like that, because that's the thing is with the review that I'm trying to write the review for, like the episodes that I haven't done a review for yet, because I stopped on 13, because the general theme with building up to war, it's like everything that they've done up till now has been kind of sort of strategically preparing for the worst, and at this point the worst has been realized, and their expectations of what would be bad have been exceeded. Like they literally were expecting like a full-on assault from the ocean, and they got a full-on assault from the ocean plus coming in from the other side.
Well,
So,
it was from the ocean, but in the sky. Like they're
Right,
flying
yeah,
over.
exactly. Because that was the one thing where like I thought, okay, cool, maybe it's accounted for. Like I thought it was unlikely, but here's what's happening. It's like, okay, cool, she accounted for that, and it's like they came from the other side. It's like, how, you're on a round Earth. It's like, maybe does Mavis like strategize like a flat earther or something? Like what the heck? Like,
I do
Zeref.
think
got time.
I do think her mind, as well as I forgot his name, Warren.
Zeref? Oh, Warren,
with the whole radar kind of thing. I think both of those combinations together are a very good match. But I feel like in a way that Zeref sort of knows how Mavis thinks, so he can prepare for.
Warren's the tree guy, isn't he?
I'm trying to think of.
Yeah.
Warren's the tree guy.
Okay, yeah, sorry,
Who's
my bad. Who is
broccoli head?
Who's
who's
the
guy who developed the tech?
telepathy? What was his name?
Is it
Warren?
Warren. That's
Warren?
I think it's Warren. Yeah, with an N. Oh.
That's right.
Your naming is amazing.
Hey man, it's tough. When you have like 200 different characters, it's tough.
True.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
But anyway, so I do think it's a good combination for those two to kind of be in the same room. Like that's a perfect thing. So that way Mavis can see the battlefield basically, and strategize for it, kind of thing. But I do think the whole outcome of Zeref being on the opposite end of things does kind of throw a wrench in the thing, because I'm wondering how much Zeref knows about Mavis' strategies, and like he's been running this country overseas for so long,
centuries.
That he's said previously that he's conquered guilds over there, so he's fought against multiple guilds like over on that side of the world. So there's probably strategies and tactics that he's learned like with experience going into war that Mavis has already learned about through books or something like that. I mean, she's gone to the trade war, the the third trade war or something like
Yeah,
that, like
third
that
trade
she was
war, 'cause
in.
she has experience.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
even another trade war, right? Was there 2 trade wars that she was in, or was just one?
I I don't know,
I
because the
think it was
episode
just the
showed
first.
her fighting in the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, which actually, while we're on this topic, it was kind of interesting to think like they definitely threw a wrench into the original Fairy Tale Zero, because if you're just watching it from an anime, she wasn't ready to cast the spell, so she's just not going to age anymore. And then sure enough, it's the same curse that Zeref is stuck with. Like, that was really interesting, because that was
Yeah.
actually one of the things they did a really good job of portraying and showing without telling, per se. Like, they still
Yeah.
told you, but you could piece it together without them having to just spell it out. Was like her mentality, her perspective on life had not been fully realized, because of the fact that, like, they showed it with, you know, Warren and Yuri and all, and Precht, where it was like, oh, that's 18 for me, and it's like, yeah, but those are lives. So
Yeah.
clearly her thought, you know, you could piece together for yourself that her ideas of
She was
life
still
had not
young.
been right. She didn't really
Yeah.
fully understand. And then when Makarov was born, that was like because it was kind of interesting, that whole moment of, like, you kind of had an idea of like, wow, that's kind of messed up, the way that they're thinking. And then Zeref brings it to your attention once you're already kind of thinking about it, of like, well, maybe, you know, you haven't fully realized the value of life. Then Makarov's born after she's had this interaction with Zeref, so it's, you kind of get that uneasy feeling of like, it's only a matter of time, and it's probably going to happen here.
See, what I'm wondering too as well, that now I'm not kind of thinking back to the Zero era of the story and everything. We had moments where Zeref taught the founding members of Fairy Tale, like, their magic and so on and so forth, and then
Yeah.
he just kind of upped and left, like, right away, kind of thing. I'm wondering if he felt their kind of, like you were saying, like, their innate kind of ignorance in the form of, like,
Right.
killing people, you know, kind of thing, and he just, in that mindset, he was still trying to preserve life, because he was in the I value life stage of his curse, where, like, everything dies around him because he likes life,
Right.
so everything dies. So he was in that kind of
Mhm.
stage. So because he likes life, maybe that was the reason why he left so suddenly, because he kind of realized that the founding members of Fairy Tale were kind of, like, iffy on
Right.
the whole death thing and so on and so
Right.
forth. So
They
maybe.
didn't fully. Maybe, because I mean, I feel like that. Yeah, because I don't know, because he still valued life, so everything was dying around him. Though there were, like, he kept his distance far enough that clearly they didn't die, so, you know, he didn't value their lives as much. Which,
Well, he valued them enough to stay away from them.
right, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, he kept his distance. That's fair.
Yeah.
Though it was kind of interesting. Like, I thought it was kind of funny, the whole idea that, like, with the way that he felt for Mavis and vice versa, that, like, it's kind of funny to think, like, oh, he loved her too much, so she died. But then you realize it's like, well, he didn't die either, which means that she didn't care about him as much as he cared about
Well,
her.
again, she hasn't been around long enough, as long as he has, anyways.
Yeah.
So, like, Mavis didn't know the value of life, but maybe didn't even fully understand the value of love, just in general. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
'Cause I
Mavis
think
has been around
somebody's-
so long that, or sorry, Zeref has been around so
Zeref.
long that he's been alone this, like, entire time.
Right. He
That,
has
like,
a whole different perspective.
Yeah. So I think that's why
Yeah.
his feelings for Mavis was a lot stronger, kind of thing. So that overpowered it, and then, pushed
I
it.
could see
So,
that.
yeah.
I could see that. No, one of my viewers told me, I think, based on, like, when, like, how old she was in Fairy Tale Zero out until the time skip that they did when Zeref came back, I think they said she was like 18 or 19 or something like that by the time she, like, died. Or no, yeah, I think it was that, because there was like a year, or no, 2 years. I don't even remember. I don't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, essentially it was the time between the end of Zero to this middle section that we get, and then from their last encounter to her wandering for over a year, and then on to when she died. So
I
don't know.
would like to actually know how old she is, like, currently, because her body's still there. She's still
Right.
she's still immortal,
She's
kind of thing.
over
She's still
100 years old at this
yeah.
point.
It would have been interesting to know like the
Chad
exact
is
time.
Chad is saying that she died. She was 23 when she died.
23 when she died. Okay.
Yeah,
23.
a lot of people
Huh.
are saying like around the 23 to 25-year-old range.
And she still looks like she's 16.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because of the
Well,
curse.
I was gonna say she looks like she's 12, but I was just gonna ask you guys. So like we've kind of been moving all over the place, but like
Yeah, we've been on it everywhere.
which is
Welcome to a
fine.
chat
Which is fine.
with me.
But so after Avatar, what did you guys think about the huge bombshell of Zeref and Natsu's whole relationship and the whole kind of revelations about their backstory?
Well,
You mean with like the
we
most
learned
recent info?
like
No,
him
no, no,
him in the
with
past,
them.
like Zeref,
Yeah.
like Natsu is his brother, and then like all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We
We haven't talked
learned
about that.
we learned at the end of Tartarus that Natsu is END. That was like that was a bombshell back then. Was like END
Right.
is Natsu, like Ethereus Natsu Dragneel, like END.
Yeah.
So that was the big bombshell then. Then we learned about the whole brother thing and the reasoning
Yeah.
behind, bringing
Yeah.
END to life kind of thing was the whole brother thing. That is, and I mean, in general, all of Zeref's backstory is pretty interesting. Like him researching like the dark arts, basically, and all of his peers around him, teachers and professors and all kinds of stuff. They're like, "Stop! Just what are you doing? Stop!" Yeah, and he just like he just keeps going at it, basically, and he gets cursed for it.
Like tampering with life and death is one of those few things. Like I'm a big advocate for ask forgiveness, not permission. Tampering with life and death is something probably ask permission first.
Yeah.
But another thing too, as well, is like he started researching the whole dark arts thing like way young. Like he was young. Like Zeref himself was young when he started doing that, and the professor told him back then, "Stop," kind of thing. And then like a couple years later, they found out again. He's like, "Stop!" And then just a couple years later, he keeps doing it, and people just ignore it, until they becomes an issue.
Was it the dark arts right off the bat, or was it just looking into like
reincarnation?
First,
trying
I feel like
revive the dead.
I feel like necromancy is dark arts, like always. I feel like
that makes sense.
That also kind of explains why back in the Tundra arc, why the first time Zeref sees Natsu, he cries. Like that's his first reaction to seeing.
Yeah, that was the first time he saw Natsu.
By turning his scarf black.
And then going back to that time as well. So he remade Natsu as END. He then had a relationship with Igniel and handed Natsu over to Igniel to train.
Yeah.
Because there's a bunch of other kids as well, like Gajil and all of them, all of Sting, Rogue, Windy, all of them were still like super young. Dragons like brought them in, taught them all they knew because they had this big master plan to teleport in time, to fight Acnologia. So Zeref hands over Natsu to Igniel to train up, so that way Natsu can get experience to kill himself, basically.
Basically.
So he did that. We learn now that there was somebody who assisted the dragons coming ahead in time, and that was Lucy's mom. Lucy's mom was the one who helped with, I can't remember the other person's name, who made the gate. Anna. She made the gate, if I remember correctly, which linked the two time frames to allow Igniel and the rest of the dragons to come in, or at least the kids. I think, if anything. And then Lucy's mom was involved in that. We don't know the full story yet, but that's just kind of like the tease that we had.
I have a feeling that's probably going to be next episode or the episode after, just because from everything, from all the like quick cuts and stuff that they had throughout the most recent episode and in the little preview bit, I'm like, I think they're probably going to get into it, and my guess is that we're basically going to get like, you know, a 3-in-1 connection to, you know, Lucy or Natsu connected to, what is it? No. Oh gosh, this is like playing the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's like you've got Zeref connected to Natsu, connected to Igno, connected to Anna, who's connected to Lucy's mom, which is somehow going to connect into Brandish in some way that I have no idea.
Apparently, Brandish is in there somewhere.
Oh, it's also important to remember that it wasn't Anna who created the gate. It's Zeref. Zeref was the one who created the gate. Anna is just the one who opened it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it took a celestial wizard to open it, right?
Right.
Wasn't the whole thing where Zeref had to teach somebody in his time frame about this magic, or the gate in general, and it was passed down generations, so that way Anna in the future can make it, so that way it can link the two times? Like, what? I think that was kind of like what they were talking about, because they were saying how Anna was like in this kind of family tree of like people kind of thing. It was passed down to like
a bunch of celestial wizards.
Yeah.
Which I'm wondering, because didn't they need all of the celestial like when
to close it?
To close it, that's what they needed. But I would assume the same amount of magic power would be required to open it, because remember, they were taking all of those celestial wizards to open the gate.
Well, they opened it based on the power of the Grand Magic Games over the course of many years. They siphoned power from the Grand Magic Games to open the gate.
Was it that? Yeah. I thought that they had... I seem to remember there was a point where there was like a bunch of celestial wizards trapped somewhere.
That was when they were killed off. Yeah, they were all killed off there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm mixing up my head canon here.
There was a couple celestial wizards who were stuck around, like the one girl that Mist saved. With the little Plu dog.
Right.
And then she ended up kind of passing on because of
we haven't seen Plu in a while.
Yeah. Well, I saw him a little bit. He was actually in the room when Brandish was in the bathroom.
Was he?
Yeah. Oh, I think so. I thought Plu and Lucy were kind of like doing something, and then that's when Brandish showed up. I think it was Plu.
I might have been.
I feel like Plu's always around in the apartment. Like whenever Lucy's in her apartment, that's when Plu's going to be there, kind of thing.
Oh no, Plu's still trapped in there after a shrink.
Yeah.
Oh no.
By the way, with Brandish and that whole encounter, I really I was kind of excited to see how that was going to play out, and then it was just kind of punching her in the back of the head. I was expecting, which, I guess they have to capture her somehow, but I really wish, you're one of the Spriggan 12, you were taken out by a punch to the back of it.
Because of the sand.
Doesn't feel
that was her downfall, was sand. It's like
a
sandstorm
by the sand.
Yeah. She had an arrow.
Right. The pollen. That's right.
Which my immediate thought was, well, can't you just shrink it all away, or is it not is that too small?
Yeah. I remember that being one of my biggest disappointments, was how she was taken down, because she does have such a cool ability, and I wish we got to see her fight, but
because we've seen her shrink and grow an island. Well, grow an island to extend it upward, kind of thing, like a big mountaintop, and then afterwards shrink it down to the size of a rock, a pebble, that she's standing on, kind of thing. So we've seen her do that, and then with the buildings as well.
That's actually a nice segue to the Alvarez Empire. I thought one of my favorite things that this arc introduced was just the fact that this isn't no longer secluded to just Fiore and Mongolia or whatever. We're actually exploring there's more land out there, and I thought that was really cool that we started to explore the world a little bit.
I just when we finally get to explore it, it's oh yeah, check it out. There's an island and then a tyrannical empire. It's
we had hints of another nation back when they were explaining the the 4 kings of Ishgar, or what's their title for their group? The top 4
The-
people.
The
Or
4
5.
Heavenly of Ishgard.
The Heavenly Kings of Ishgar or something like that.
That
That
yeah.
was-
When Warred, tree guy, when Warred was explaining it, he was saying that like beyond them, there's there could be more out there that are
Yeah,
stronger
yeah.
than us, kind of thing.
Right.
And that was like the hint to like there's something out there.
Yeah.
So
There
like
was
There
that's,
will always
that's
be people stronger.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny considering like I'm wondering how the fight's going to go with the current Wizard Saints versus because my guess, just based on the way that they're probably going to want to tell the story, is that God Serena is probably going to be the only one who has to fight the 4 of them because he's been the most powerful. So it's kind of like I feel like it's just going to be somebody's. I popped chat open for just a quick second because I wanted to see because I was going to look for something else and to see, and I'm going to close it now because I don't want to get spoiled.
That's a dangerous game you're playing there.
I know it was a dangerous game. I know. Because I wanted to see how many people were watching, and I looked over and somebody said 4 emperors of Ishgar. And now it's closed. But I just wanted to look over and say, how many people right now? Anyway, my ADD aside, I think based on the way they want to probably going to want to tell the story, I think it's probably just going to be like God Serena takes him out, and then it's going to set the scale of his power for when everybody else goes to fight, which I think would be funny if that's the case. And then like
because he's number 1, and he basically turncoat in a way to the other side. So I am wondering, like, how does his power scale with the other Spriggan 12 members? Because like, is he at the bottom rung, or is he just like a little bit above it? Like, I'm not sure. Like, power wise, like where he stands. I do. I rewatched the last episode just to have like a refresher in mind before this. One of the Spriggan 12, guy with the suit, who has like a Cockney accent and that kind of thing. He reminds me so much of Agent 47, like just like a
little bit, yeah.
Or oh god, what's that one actor that always does like action films? Who's
Jason Statham.
Yes,
or whatever.
Jason Statham.
Yeah.
That he just 1-to-1 in my mind. Like that's Jason Statham in anime form.
I believe that Mashimo has been on record saying that was like his influence. Like it is actually that actor.
That's hilarious.
Awesome. Because I'm curious to see, like, because they said assassination magic, and I'm like, what would that entail? Like, I'm thinking Hit from Dragon Ball Super or Koto Sensei from Assassination Class.
Well,
like that was kind of. When I think of assassination, I'm like, maybe that?
We have like a hint of it in the opening, but I'm not sure if we can just base it off of that. He had a burst into smoke kind of thing, like in the opening. And that could just be that could just be stylistic, like the style of the opening could be, but it could be subtle hints at like what his magic is, kind of thing. And if it's assassination magic, makes sense to burst into smoke or whatever kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
because people always yell at me for watching the openings like that, but like there's so many things where it's like when stuff happens, I'm like, I get that, but like the most recent episode that I it's coming out I think at like 4:30 today, but when I did the most recent episode reaction, I'm wondering, and I was talking about what I was saying with Bloodman fighting the Sabretooth Guild. And I was like, this scene coming. Nope, not that. Wait, and like every scene that passed, like I think it's the next one. I think it's the next one. And then finally it showed up, and I wasn't ready for. And I was like, I don't know when it's going to be. Oh, there it is. So like when people are like, you're spoiling yourself by watching these, I'm like, I hope that proves that really like I don't retain openings very well, other than the music.
Yeah. So
they're guessing, and then finally it showed up. I'm like, there it is. That's the one I was talking about.
In preparation for this discussion video, I actually had Try and another member of my Discord group, Xanadarium. They actually watched the opening to like, or they've seen it multiple times or something like that. They had to rewatch it for me because I wanted to be on level with you, basically. And I know you watched the entire episode because like before we did a discussion video where you had watched Zero before us, and you were holding back
Yep.
like information because like you knew
Yep.
some stuff here and there, and we were just like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't want you to get put in that situation again where you have to hold back your own thoughts, you know, kind of thing.
Right.
So
yeah. Well,
I pushed to watch the entirety of you know the
Mhm.
opening, the ending, the preview. Even I even watched the preview.
yeah.
So
Nice.
I watched the last episode, the way we watched 285. Watched it all the
Yeah.
way through, basically, just so I was on par with like what you know, kind of thing. So,
Well, and like I always get yelled at for that, but like my mentality getting aired on TV in Japan
right,
and what's airing on Funimation. You know, people are like, don't watch it, it spoils stuff. I'm like, look, if the animation company thing, if the writers and the producers and the animation studio thinks that this is what they want to put in the show, and the editors are like, here's what we're going to put for the end, I'm like, I'm just going to watch it from start to finish. Plus, I'm lazy, so it's like I'm just going to hit record and just roll.
it reminds me of like what like modern movie trailers do nowadays, where they have like the short, like 5 second trailer at the very beginning of the trailer. So
Yeah.
a trailer for the trailer kind of thing, like
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. It reminds me of that, where like they show you all the good bits like in quick succession, and then they go to
Right.
the actual trailer bit, you know, kind of thing. But that reminds me of kind of what anime shows do with openings. I mean, not all of them, obviously.
Right.
I've done
Yeah.
like like upwards of 50 shows at this point.
Yeah.
And I've seen many openings, and only quite a few of them have been like hardcore spoilers to avoid until later on.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
mostly for my reactions, I always kind of skip the openings just to save a little bit more time, like on the actual
Yeah.
open of the reaction. So I'm just sitting there like watching the same thing over and over again, kind of thing.
I mean, but you're watching Fairy Tale, so the first like 4 minutes of the show are recaps anyway. So.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I think
It's
I
weird
have
because I feel
skipped
like
that one time.
Yeah. What was
it's
that?
weird because I feel like Fairy Tale has been really good with openings in the past with not
Yeah.
being too spoilery, but then I feel like ever since Tartaros, they've just been like, oh, we don't care anymore. Like it's been really weird to see.
One of the
Yeah.
best shows, and not to get too far off topic with Fairy Tale, one of the best shows for like, I feel like with putting an opening in that tells you a bit of what's going to happen but doesn't spoil anything, was pretty much every opening for Assassination Classroom, because they were basically like, here's the setting for the arc that we're in, like here's the setting,
Yeah.
here's the characters, here's some great music and some stuff to go along with it, and the only thing that changes is where they're at. So like there's like a beach arc, and it's like here's the opening and they're all on the beach, but
Yeah.
that's it. Like that's one of the best ones without spoilers. But even then, like with the opening, I think with Fairy Tale putting spoilers in air quotes in their openings, I feel like it's out of context enough that you're kind of like, when it does happen, you're like, I got it. Whereas, with if they just straight up went like, here's this to this to this in the opening, and then it's like,
Yeah. I
okay,
think
now I know what's going to happen.
so. I think definitely the one thing that Try and Xanadarian were saying, that like they
Mhm.
thought it was pretty spoilery, but when I watched it,
Mhm.
I didn't see it as that spoilery. I mean, sure, they hint at a lot of things, but if you know what's going to
Yeah.
happen, like in the future, that opening is pretty spoilery. But because you don't like for me, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, obviously. So it's
Yeah.
a lot of things are just like, oh, just subtle hints and
Yeah.
random scenes that like don't make sense to me like whatsoever, kind of thing, at this moment in time, anyways, until later on.
Plus, I feel
here's-
like. Go ahead.
Well, one thing that I think they could have done to kind of remedy this is that I've been watching like a lot of Naruto openings lately, and like something that they would do is they would, like, for instance, a character who hasn't been revealed yet, they would like black him out or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when the anime actually does get to the point where he's revealed, then they like reveal in the opening who he is. So the opening kind
Yeah.
of changes over time.
I
They did that with,
wanted
like,
that
like-
to do that for
Yeah,
every
so
show.
this
That's a
opening-
really good, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this opening in particular, where they literally show every single Spriggan, I think, in like one of the shots or whatever. Like,
Yeah,
There's
I
a
feel like they
nice
could have.
shot.
shot. No, that's
Yeah,
the
they could've
ending has
blacked
that
some
too,
of
where
them
they all
out.
pan by.
Yeah. So
I do like
things
the
like
fact they
that
brought the
would've been cool.
clockwork back in the ending, though. The clockwork from like the first
Mhm.
season, that I do like the chibi with the clockwork.
Yeah.
So I will say, like, I do like when shows do that. I do like that because you actually get to see like, oh, that's cool. We don't know who that is yet. Seven Deadly Sins. Though one of the shows that I thought was going to do that and then it turned out they just didn't was Ruby did that with one of the characters, but then once the character was revealed, like she was still blacked out of the opening.
Yeah,
for the entire rest of the season.
exactly. I thought they were gonna pull a Naruto on that and be like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, it's like
To
I'm
be fair,
like,
they
"Ooh."
introduced the character. To be fair, they introduced the character like 2 episodes in, so
Right.
it's like, okay, cool. So now there's that. So and then it's like, really, you couldn't
Yeah.
just like
There's-
black out the character and
There's
just
an
re-enter it?
there's an anime that does the Naruto thing where it kind of blacks out, the character kind of thing, but in a way in reverse. So there's a show called Angel Beats. I'm not sure if you've seen that show.
Oh, yeah,
The ending-
gosh.
The ending does the reverse when they're panning. That like one of the
Yep.
characters kind of fades out, and like that's. I'm not gonna spoil Angel Beats for people who
Yeah,
haven't
right.
seen it, but for people who know the show, like that's
Yeah.
a really interesting way of doing it as well.
I
Now
don't
I'm
even
sad.
remember. Yeah, right. Yeah, really. I don't remember
Sorry.
what show it was. Yeah, I don't remember what show it was. There was a show though where like in the opening they would have this panning shot of like the characters appearing, and then similar to like with Angel Beats, but it was a horror anime, so then like certain characters would disappear. So like in that episode you're like, ooh, okay, I know who it's gonna be. How is this gonna happen? So that was kind of like, that's a really good, it's a spoiler, but in a way it like just builds the tension of like they weren't in the opening, so like how is this going to happen? Where are they going to get
Yeah.
it was a horror anime, so it was like, they're going to get murdered. How? You know?
Right.
I'm
So-
now just curious of the how, not the who, because I know the who. Now I just want to watch them die somehow.
So how did you feel with the whole Zeref versus Natsu battle itself? How did you feel, Garrett?
I feel like with the way like it felt like it was a very quick paced. It wasn't fast paced. It was just quickly paced. I feel like it was paced well up until the very end of that fight, where we're like, I'm sure that there's going to be, which, okay, I have a lot of thoughts on this. Hold on. My brain went like this to this. I liked the pacing. What irritated me was the fact that when we get this whole story of how all of this happened, which was really cool to see, like now we have a whole new set, like a whole new context on Wendy and Gajiel and Sting and Rogue, which I thought was interesting because I thought were what, 5th generation Dragon Slayers, but technically
Well, they
they're
consider themselves
Yeah.
4th gen,
Fourth
whatever.
gen, I
but
think.
they
Third.
are
Third
1st
gen.
gen. They started at
'cause-
1st gen.
Yeah, their 1st gen, and then it was a dragon.
And they in their
Lacrima?
minds they killed their dragon, so they got that experience. And then
But
they
weren't they
added the lacrimas
Yeah,
in their bodies as well, so that kind of made them
so
a
they can
new
actively
generation.
tap into. Yeah, they can.
So
actively
they've kind of jumped like experience stuff like around kind of thing, but ultimately
Did
they're
they do
1st
that,
gen.
though?
Hmm?
Huh?
I just thought of something.
Mm.
Their dragons altered their memories, so I would assume you'd have to kill a dragon to get its lacrima like that. So I would assume maybe they don't have a lacrima in them after all, and they just think they do.
They can.
Probably,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
considering that, like Wendy can tap into Dragon Force because the wind is around her, it makes sense. Like with Sting, light is around him, so he can probably tap into because there's just light energy all around him. And Rogue is kind of weird because I guess like.
I
guess
think
he
it's
can
the
tap into
opposite.
it 'cause-
I think
Yeah.
when Sting goes Dragon Force, when he goes all light
Mhm.
mode, cast
Yeah.
shadows everywhere, so that way Rogue can tap
And then
into
Rogue
his.
can do it, yeah. That was
So-
the coolest transition though when we see them like change for the first time. It's like, oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say with the fight though, I feel like the fight was well paced. It was quickly paced, but what really irritated me was like Happy ended the fight,
Yeah.
but when we're getting all of this information on Natsu and his past and how he's connected with Zeref and all that, like Happy was the first one to be like, oh well, don't believe him. Why would you believe him? And then it's like, yeah, true. Like, why would you believe him? Don't believe
Hey.
him. That makes no sense. Oh, hey, somebody.
It's
Hey, what's
Rilu.
up?
I don't
Welcome,
have an
Rilu.
excuse for my lateness.
Mm,
Hello.
Welcome,
Hello.
Rilu.
Hey man.
but
Well-
go ahead. Ooh, now it's
Well,
awkward.
one big thing
Yeah.
that I was always kind of I vocally said it in my reaction, but when the first like battle between Natsu and Zeref happened, the entire like start to finish like battle sequence like for Natsu and Zeref was 6 minutes until like the end of the episode. Like
Was
it was
it
just
really?
like it's like start to finish like start of their battle to like the end of the episode where like he dies essentially
Yeah.
like for the cliffhanger. 6 minutes. So I was just like they can't lead all from the start of like the show. They've always said like the Dark Wizard Zeref, this big baddie,
Right,
and
yeah.
like this whole thing for a 6 minute battle to kill him off. Like it just like
Yeah.
did not make sense
Yeah, there's
whatsoever.
no way.
Well, I even
Yeah.
said in the reaction I was doing, I'm like, it's gonna be weird if they manage to kill off the main antagonist, because it goes from a story of conquest and completion to, like, on the bad guy side, it goes from a story of conquest and completion to a story of vengeance from his underlings, and
Yeah.
the fact that and what I was going to say was, what irritated me was don't believe a word he said, Natsu. It's like, yeah, why would I believe? By the way, if you kill me, you die too. And then Happy's like, oh, now it's serious, and like grabs him. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
like, you
But
don't know
at
what to tell them not
this-
to believe him.
But at the same time, it's like that mentality of like, the smart driving cars, like who to kill off kind of thing. Like which the better option.
Yeah.
In a sense, like either Natsu dies or like the entire world dies. It's like
Well, and, yeah,
it's
and
it's
Happy picked the
essentially-
entire world. So.
yeah, as for whatever. But yeah, plot wise, like I guess he had to do that because
Yeah.
we got a taste of Zeref's power, just a little taste.
Yeah.
I'm sure that wasn't his full power by any means.
It was. I feel like it wasn't like. I feel like it was more than a taste. I feel like there was quite a bit more of his power on display, because especially once Natsu let loose the Dragon King fire, I think that was a moment of like. I think even Zeref had a moment of realization of like, even my magic power would be rivaled by this.
Yeah.
Like, so while we didn't see
That's
full
why he
extent of
was
his
like,
magic
this is
power,
it, basically.
yeah. Plus the whole healing thing, like immediately after that, like
Yeah.
I'm excited though because we saw the because I guess it was because of the sheer power. Like I guess at a certain point, like he just doesn't heal from that anymore, even though he's immortal, which was kind of weird. But I was gonna say when they like. I'm excited to see his character design change because we get a hint of it in the opening,
We
and I'm
do.
like that. I think that's a really cool get up. And as soon as he said new clothes are in order, I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't wait to see it fully properly illuminated instead of like the little shadowy,
Yeah.
darker color version that we see in the opening.
I am
Yeah.
interested to see how this progresses in the Zeref side of things. Like obviously we're gonna fight the Spriggan 12 one after the other until they're all defeated, kind of thing.
right.
That's kind of like the way I can see it. I mean, maybe one or
Mhm.
two kind of slip out of the battle and like leave, or they save themselves or join Fiore instead of Spriggan if they happen to do whatever like that. But in terms of Zeref, like there's no stopping or making Zeref leave. Like he's here for a
Yeah.
reason, and he wants this regardless of like what he has to do it. So I'm interested to see like who has to fight him to defeat him, kind of thing.
I feel like it's going to come down to either Natsu. I feel like it's either going to come down to Natsu or Mavis, because they're the two characters so far that have the closest connection to him, who are still alive. I feel like it's going to come down to one of those two. Though the one thing with Zeref that I think is kind of interesting is like, and I had the same theory with and this theory still kind of stands with one of the theories I made with it was in Ruby with Adam, where he was an irredeemable character, but at a certain point, I'm not going to spoil anything, but at a certain point, all of the things that he needed to be an antagonist were no longer there. He had nothing to antagonize the main characters with. Whereas like you were saying with the 6 minutes, 6 minute fight to kill him off,
Yeah.
it's like, I'm thinking in my head, like, from a writer's perspective, it's like there are so many things still left with him that are, he
One
can
of
still
which
be an
was
active
the whole-
antagonist.
Yeah, one of which was the whole background behind
Yeah.
the brother, Nazi brother and all
Yep.
that kind of stuff. So them fleshing that out like the next episode was definitely
Exactly.
like
It's like he is
Yeah.
still
Needed.
very
Yeah.
actively an antagonist, and you can't
yeah.
kill off an antagonist who still has a purpose. Like, you can kill off an antagonist who no longer has a purpose, but
I am wondering if there is somebody in the Fairy Tale Guild who has the capability of defeating Zeref that not even he can conceive of. That's what I'm wondering. Like, he keeps thinking from, like, this time since, like, immemorial, like, since the beginning of
Yeah.
his whole thing, that Natsu wasn't the one to defeat him. That's, like, his mentality. He wants his brother, of all people, his creation, to defeat him.
Yeah.
So
It's gonna be Ichiya.
I'm wondering if there's somebody in Fiore with the power to defeat him that he hasn't even conceived of because he's just so hell-bent on Natsu doing it.
Well, here's a interesting thought. What's going to be going on with Acnologia? Because we've had a bit of interaction with him,
Yeah.
and at this point, it's Zeref hasn't sided with him or with humanity. He's basically just going to wipe everybody out.
Yeah.
And like Acnologia, you know it's bad when, like, before Zeref even determines that he wants to take out all of the world, he's already decided that Acnologia, whether the world is destroyed or not, Acnologia is not a savable, or, you know, he needs to be destroyed. Like, that really speaks volumes of how bad Acnologia must be. Or we already kind of have an idea of how bad he is.
He's sort of also in the era of Zeref. So Zeref and Acnologia have been in touch for a long time.
Yeah.
Or if anything, Zeref knows of him because of that time kind of thing. More so than anybody else with stories about Acnologia, because, like, Zeref was there. So, and, like, apparently Zeref was, like, with friends with Igneal, and Igneal's main thing was to defeat Acnologia. So there's definitely a lot of, like, facts and things that Zeref knows about Acnologia that nobody else in history would ever conceive of nor know of, because they weren't there physically to see it. So Zeref knows all that kind of information. So I think Acnologia will show up, like, in Magnolia, in this battle, like, at some point.
Yeah.
But I think what's the thing that drew him to Tenro? Was it Zeref's power, or was it? I feel like it was said. I feel like it was said that something drew him to Tenro.
Was it when Kana used fairy glitter? The amount of magic power output by that? I don't know. It was something to do with the amount of magic power. I don't remember exactly what it was, though. I don't remember, actually.
I feel like someone said, oh, is he drawn to, like, the power, like somebody's power or something like that? Maybe it was Zeref's power.
I think it was Zeref's, yeah. But
maybe.
that would mean, if that was the case, then Acnologia should be, like, constantly attacking the Spriggan 12, like, all the damn time, because, like, Zeref's there, like, kind of thing.
He may know, or he Spriggan 12, but not want to bother facing them at this point.
What if it was in Zeref's, like, good form, right? Like, he values life, so he's blowing stuff up around him. That form, remember he was saying, like, that was his strongest form. So maybe, like,
when he cared about life.
Yeah, so maybe because he was in that, like, state of mind, that Acnologia could, like, sense him more, because, like, he's just blowing off, like, all this magic power kind of thing, because, like, he values life. So maybe that's, like, what drew him to Tenro to initially do it. So now that Zeref doesn't value life anymore, and he just, like, hates life, everyone can live, that, like, he doesn't know where to find him pretty much, or anymore kind of thing. Maybe.
But then also, I believe in Tartaros, Acnologia showing up was because he was at that point he was drawn by END's power, I believe. That's what called him that time.
Okay.
So
was it the END's power, or was it END's power, or was it the book itself being present like that? Because Natsu was very powerful during that, but he's even more powerful now, and Acnologia is still not caring.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, not sure.
Mark Gear said, well, he theorized that Acnologia would want to destroy the book, destroy END before he could destroy him.
Well, if that's the case, then Zeref took it out of thin air. He has it, like, he even shot it to, like, shoot Natsu with it, just to prove that the book is linked to him. So if that's the case, then Acnologia next episode. No, I'm just kidding. Like if he brought the book out,
Yeah.
so maybe that is just like a beacon for Acnologia to be like, it's there, and then just fly there, kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
because that was
apparently,
my first thought. Was like
Acnologia doesn't have an army anymore, so
yeah, well, that was my thought too. Was like when that was, threw it on the ground. I'm like, what the heck, dude? And they shot it. I was like, oh, I see.
Yeah.
You're making a point.
yeah, just proving that because like he was like, no, that's not the case. I'm not E&D and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, there
I
was.
also thought.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you're fine. You're fine because I need to formulate my thought a bit more.
I thought the little tidbits we got during this fight was pretty cool. Like the fact that the reasoning behind why Igneel couldn't defeat END, or the reason why he just wouldn't do it was because it
Yeah.
was Natsu.
Indeed,
And then
yeah.
also the fact that we know now that Natsu is over 400 years old, so that also kind of explains. I think it was back in the Battle of Fairytale arc when he couldn't pass through that door or whatever because
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Yeah. All Dragon
Which is
Slayers,
really-
Gajul included. Yeah.
Yeah, because we
Yeah,
never
yeah.
got a hint at we never got a hint as to at that point nothing had been established of that
Right.
part of the lore.
Right. Yeah.
And he was already putting in motion the fact that he's they're older for some reason, like, or at least they seem to think they're older, which is funny because I guess it doesn't go on physical age, it goes on like how many years it's been since they were born, like while
Probably,
they have
something
not
like that, yeah.
physically aged 400 years, they have been on that earth for what would be 400 years, which is interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of subtle hints towards the Dragon Slayers being like more than they appear, kind of thing.
Mhm.
The age thing definitely was like it was there, but the whole thing about like the year 777 was when the dragons just disappeared, kind of thing. Like that whole thing. Like, so what I'm wondering is when the gate was opened, what we probably might get. Hopefully we get this in the anime. But when the gate opened, when the dragons came through, I'm wondering if they were already inside the kids when they came through the gate, and then like they kind of just let the kids let loose around the world, or did the dragons come through the gate physically, and then hatch a plan to like, go into their minds basically, after they got to like, the century kind of thing, because the whole world knew the dragons disappeared on the year 777. So that means dragons were potentially out and around, flying around, doing stuff, basically. For people to see them. And then that year, it's just like, oh, they up and left, kind of thing. Because the one girl, it might be filler arc, whatever. The one girl,
who made the fake dragons?
Yeah. She saw a dragon, like, and that's what kind of kicked off her whole kind of thing on making a dragon. Yeah. So it is filler.
It's
Darn
filler.
it! Darn it!
I was gonna let you go, man, because I remember I watched that one. A ton of people were like, don't bother watching it. It's garbage. I'm like, it's part of the show. Shut up.
All right, really quick. Okay, so it was actually the fact that the dragons were sealed inside of them that they couldn't pass through that door in
the
Battle of
dragons
Fairytale.
are that age.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, people are correcting
interesting.
me in chat. Yeah.
I mean, either way, it makes sense. There's some kind of embodiment inside of them preventing them to go past through the barrier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I was gonna say with coming up to the end of the most recent episode. So, what do you think is wrong with Natsu? I have my own theory.
So he did kind of, in a way, kind of pass out when Happy was flying back to the city. I mean, you can kind of, I guess, say that like he overexerted himself with the whole pushing himself with Igno's power to kind of like defeat Zeref, but he was very coherent after they landed. Like after Happy brought him to safety, he was very like he was talking with Happy, and it was very cut and clean. Like if he was exerted himself, that would have been the time to be like, I'm tired, kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
So like, I don't know, something afterwards. I mean, I don't know. It could be the book when Zeref shot the book. Maybe that's like kind of lingering effects, like the book's damaged, so that way he's damaged in a way.
Okay.
But I am not sure. What do you think about it?
My theory was because we've seen this before with Makarov with I think it was also with the Phantom Lord. A lot of things from the Phantom Lord I remember, and I keep calling it Grimoire Heart anyway. I think it's, what is it, the Ether Nano deficient or the magic deficiency thing or whatever? Because part of me wonders if the whole, like, the power he had with that was simply a means of unlocking his own power, but by overexerting himself, he may not have had that, like, I'm tired, thing, but it was a, like, he has now exerted all of his magic energy, and it, that moment of them kind of sitting and waiting was when it kind of set in that it was like, you have no magic energy left, and
in the past we've seen him go to 0 before, and that's typically where he sucks up energy to kind of like take
Like
it,
when
like
yeah.
Loxus or not Loxus, no, sorry, Loxus gave him his power.
It was
with,
the Fire God Slayer.
Yeah, with the Fire God Slayers going to 0 with that, and then sucking in his power. I think we've seen that like multiple times with Natsu doing that, like going to 0 kind of thing. So
I didn't even think about that.
I mean, maybe that is the case here, but there's nothing to power him up because he's just in the sky. Like there's no fire.
He's just dragging him along for the ride. Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I don't know. We have a little hint, I guess, in the next time on episode, kind of thing at the very end where we have what was her name? The
Poor
yeah. Poor Yusuka is there, like doing something, and you see Natsu's kind of there. So there's something there. I just don't know what, kind of thing. It's definitely interesting, and a lot of things could be the cause of it. And there's not like any kind of hard evidence to be like that's the reason. There's just too much like to think about.
You were mentioning earlier too with like with them fighting, like certain characters fighting and stuff, which reminded me of one of the things that I was thinking of, because we had a bit of like Brandish, a couple cuts of Brandish in the next time the preview thing. I think of all the characters that we've had in the Spriggan so far, like I don't think she's going to go straight up like leaving the Spriggan 12, but I definitely feel like she, of all the characters, is probably the most likely to help in the fight in some way, because especially considering like she, from the start, she was definitely one of these, like, she was one of the outcast Spriggan 12, like nobody else really liked her, so I feel like she's definitely going to be
the warrior chick hates her.
The warrior chick hates her. Even the little dude who's now big again, it like
the warper, the warper guy, or whatever, the pet or whatever.
Yeah,
she calls him.
He's freaking. I saw that. I'm like, because it was one of those tropes where she's like, "Good, you're here. You can get me out. It's good to have pets around." His hands up, and I'm like sitting there watching it in the reaction. I'm like, "There's shadows over his face. He's gonna hurt you."
Yeah.
Like,
whenever you see like half a shadow kind of thing on a face, you're like, "Oh, what's going down?" Like he's gonna do something.
Yeah. As soon as the smile happened, I'm like, "You're in a bad time there, Brandish."
Yeah. I'm actually wondering with Brandish in particular, like it's always been like about this thing about her like hating Lucy's mom kind of thing. What if it's like kind of a bit of the opposite? What if she values Lucy's mom to a degree where she's trying to reach out to Lucy, but it's just like there's something in her mind conflicting with that like notion, and she kind of in a way like comes off as hating Lucy. But in a way she knows Lucy's mom. So something in the past happened with Brandish and Lucy's mom. I'm kind of thinking like if she does join the battle against the Spriggan 12 or 11, whatever we call, she would have
at that point because they're also down Agile.
she would have to have something on Lucy's side to kind of go with her, to join her kind of thing in a way. Because like nobody else in Fairy Tail has any relation whatsoever to Brandish, so there's no point to her joining Fairy Tail on anybody other member. So if she did join Fairy Tail or just like Magnolia in general, to the defense of Magnolia, it would be because of Lucy. So I would think it'd probably be Lucy's mom. Like it's a good thing, but like she's coming off as a being bad thing. So I'm interested to see what Brandish's background is.
Yeah, because she just kind of strikes me as one of those characters which we've had introduced. Like, character goes from, bad guy to best, guy or girl. Like freaking Gaggio is one of my favorite. Like Gaggio is one of my favorite characters, and Gaggio and Levy are ships in the whole series. And the first interaction with him is beating the crap out of Shadowgear and nailing them to a tree. Like that is probably one of the only kind of enemies become friends arcs that was done in a way where I'm like, okay, I get it, but
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
I guess you can also say like the Irration Seis in a way too. They were like this kind of big baddie, and then I mean, they're still kind of they're redeeming themselves,
but they're still a dark guild because they're not
exactly. Yeah, they're still
official.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's not like. I mean, I guess the one main one was the. Oh, I can't remember his name at all, but he was part of the Irration Seis. He was one of the ones who was affected by the switch when they switched like the dark and the light kind of thing. Like he was the first one to switch. He kind of joined the good side, in defense of like what's happening.
Right.
But he kind of stuck with the Irration Seis. He was condemned like the rest of them were with them, but he's still a good guy. He has good at heart kind of thing. The guy all about money, basically. He was all about money, and then after the switch, all about love.
All about love.
Yeah.
His brother was one of the members of the from the Tower of Heaven.
Yeah.
Wally.
Yes.
What was it?
All the
Hot Eye and Wally.
Yeah. Wally.
All of the characters.
Yeah, Hot Eye and Wally.
That is the one thing which somebody I made a comment in one of my. People are like, "Oh, you have no idea," which is what I'm really not looking forward to. Is I'm like, there are all these connections. I'm like, man, everybody's connected to somebody else in this show, and then somebody in the comments like, "You have no idea." It's like, oh, good, just what I wanted.
What was I gonna say? There has been other groups as well that we've thought about being bad guys. Like, for example, Sting and Rogue. That was like one of the big thing where they were like the bad guys of like the Grand Magic Games, but then turned good afterwards, kind of thing. But like they weren't
I feel like they were really. You were about to say the same thing I was.
Yeah, they weren't like bad, but like in relation to like the games, they were just like a nuisance, kind of thing.
Yeah, because their standards were set so high that like what was that? I missed that.
He laughed at me, calling them nuisance.
Nuisance.
But it's like
the right description. That's a good description.
Yeah. Well, because I think the problem was too that their guildmaster set the standard for their success so high that it was one of those like, you need to be here, and it's like, well, I mean, they can get there, but the method that he wanted, like the fact that he just was gonna straight up kill Lecter, it's like. Yeah, that was, there was something very therapeutic about watching Sting just blow a hole in the master's chest. It's like, you had that coming. You had that coming.
Yeah, but, there have been lots of enemy groups kind of join the good side. Not necessarily like Fairy Tale, just like a good side. A team, to help the Fairy Tale or whatever like that. Yeah,
definitely.
So everyone's been really dying to know. So we've met Brandish, Agil, August in the beginning, Demaria.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We just got introduced to Jason Statham. We met God Serena, Demaria. So who is your favorite Spriggan thus far, and how do you think the group, out of the ones that you've met, stacks up to like, Tartaros or Grimmer Heart or the other evil guilds that we've met? Who's your favorite?
I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Wall's pretty cool, but I don't know.
I think what's cool about these guys is a lot of them are all about their magic kind of pertains to like the area around them, kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the sand guy, he can make a sand storm effectively, like for the entirety of like Magnolia. Like it wasn't just like a section around the ship that he was on. It was like a huge thing. Everyone was affected by it. So if like that level of power like behind him, and then Brandish has the ability to just like world shatter like a amount of power with her. So like all the Spriggan 12 definitely feel like way stronger than the Tartarus
OP.
guys. Yeah.
OP is all hell. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Um,
I feel like it could go to both ways though, because I think the Tartarus demons would have ways of defeating members of the Spriggan 12 and vice versa, and like there's always like the weakness, they have to kind of like think about too.
Yeah, I feel like the
Yeah.
Tartaros demons, their abilities were more directed at the person, and
Their curses, yeah.
yeah. Whereas the Spriggan 12, it's more directed at controlling the environment in which the fight is taking place.
Crowd control.
Exactly. Yeah, like because you've got so far we don't really know what's her name, the one who's the knight, the
Yeah.
Demaria. Like with her, we don't really know what her magic ability is. We just know that without even as much as a movement, she was able to land an attack. So it's like we don't know what her abilities are, but they seem obviously ranged pretty well. I liked Wall. I don't like Wall as a character. I don't really like him as a character, but I do like his character designs because it's like I think it's one of the few characters we've got. What is it? Lucy, Urza, and him now, where the character designs are a part. Like the character design or outfit designs are a part of their combat style. Like Lucy with Star Dress, the fact that Urza has requip magic, and now Wall with the fact that he can use alchemy to like change his form, which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
I think of the characters, if I were to pick one of the Spriggan 12 that I like the most, I would say that August is probably my favorite. First off, because it's the month I was born in, but also because I like the fact that with his abilities, he seems like he's just bored with magic. It's like I've learned everything. I've learned everything. What else could you possibly throw at me? He doesn't really seem like the kind of character that wants to fight, but when he needs to, he will, and you will not live to see the end of the fight. That's kind of what I feel like his character is, which is why I like it, because he doesn't say much but gets a lot done. I think I like that part of his character.
So one of my theories with I said this in my reactions, but one of my theories for the battle, the warrior girl, the one that like just overwhelming power that like just like slashes, or that without moving kind of thing. I was theorizing when we first saw her on the boat, the previous episode, or the episode before, I should say. I was thinking that it would be cool if there was another wizard out there with Urza's power, because we so far in the show we've always had wizards with like in a way like mirror powers, like Leon and Gray, and then like Natsu's fire with like the fire god slayer, and then there was like everyone has like some kind of mirror to like go against them kind of thing, except Wendy. Oh no, sorry, Wendy and what's her name? Shelia. Never mind. Sorry. Yeah. But everyone has like a mirror power to kind of like like, oh, they have the power just like them, kind of thing. But with Urza, there's nothing. It's just like she's in a realm of her own in a way.
Well, with a lot of the stuff with Urza, it seems like a lot of the abilities have been or a lot of the people who she has fought against have not had have not had the same power as her, but something that can counteract it very effectively. Like even in the Phoenix Priestess movie, like we had the one who the one ability, without getting too many spoilers. Have you seen the Phoenix Priestess? I think you have already. So the one who could like cancel out her ability, or the guy who controls space magic. Yeah. It's like his ability. Like it's never been a direct opposite, or it's never been a direct mirror. It's always
just
been
a counter
or something to counteract, which kind of makes sense because it's kind of hard to like if it's if it's something sort of like that style of magic directly mirrored, then it's just a matter of whoever collected the best armor in their requip locker,
because like what I kind of boiled down to is in the Tower of Heaven arc, we learned that she just kind of all of a sudden knew this magic, right, to like do stuff. So like it kind of boils down to like like if she can just learn it, then obviously somebody else would know of the magic, unless it's like for some reason just
Yeah.
like she made the magic, like no one's
Yeah.
ever conceived of this magic before, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they have a name for it too, like the requip magic, and everyone's like, oh, she's a requipper, like, so everyone like has like a
Yeah.
knowledge about this magic. So that's kind of like when we're wondering like when are we gonna fight an enemy with the same type of magic as Urza. Because then
Especially,
they can kind of
go
like
ahead.
counteract themselves. Like Urza goes
Yeah.
into armor, they counteract it with their armor, and then she switches the armor to go the, like just kind of back and
Especially,
forth.
yeah, I was gonna
Urza
say,
I guess-
Nightwalker.
What's
Yeah, I was
that?
about to say.
Urza
Nightwalker.
Nightwalker.
yeah, well, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's
It's
But
yeah,
that-
it's
that's a
it's
parallel
her. It's her.
universe. Too, which, I mean, well, in terms of like what you were saying though with the fighting, like that literally did just end up coming down to whoever had the best, requip blocker and who ended up being able to be more brutal
Yeah.
with the fight or not with the fight with the magic though. You did bring up a good point, because it is kind of funny, like that is considering Urza isn't from 400 years ago. That magic's fairly modern.
Yeah.
Lucy's magic is an ancient magic, but it's a common magic.
Right.
The one like especially, and this is fairly fresh in my mind considering that I've been like rewatching the first season of Fairy Tail. It's like the most common magic we've seen so far. The most common form of magic we've seen. So I think I'm correct in saying this. Apart from celestial wizard magic, which we've only seen Lucy's mom on 1, 2, 3, or probably about 4 or 5 total celestial spirit wizards who aren't dead, or who at least have been shown alive, not just they died. The most common form has been Dragon Slayer magic, which in the first episode it's an ancient magic that can't be bought in stores and isn't taught anymore, and it's now in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
At least
6,
five, and then Loxus and Cobra.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, because it's Loxus, Cobra, Natsu, Gagio, Wendy, Sting, Rogue. 7 at least of these magic types, and it's a really ancient rare type of magic. Like, yeah, but it's the most common.
7 people have.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's whereas like requip magic, which is like what you were saying, well, requip magic was kind of like Urza taught herself, but yeah, everybody knows what it is. They're like, oh,
yeah,
it's
everyone.
and it's like,
they're like, oh, it's requip.
why does like people who know an ancient, magic art?
Yeah.
I feel like the most common magic is like, how like whenever you see like those background wizards from Fairy
with the
Tail,
magic staffs.
Staffs, yeah.
Yeah, they just shoot beams or whatever. That's the most common
the
thing.
cannon fodder, yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
I had
okay,
that thought
so-
of those characters with when I was watching Ruby, and I saw one of the parts where it's like when magic was more common in that world, and you just see them firing staffs. And
They were
Fairy
shooting
Tail.
staff. It's like, there we go. Yeah. All right, go ahead, Tom.
So Frodo said that August was his favorite Spriggan. What's yours going?
The ones that we've known. There's like I think there's like 3 that we haven't, or 2 that we haven't seen like on camera yet, other than the opening and credits. The ones that we do know about, I mean, Brandish is pretty OP. I do like her, like just overarching, like world shattering, like magic that she could do. I guess the one guy who has puppets, or what like that, the guy who like shot the rockets to like the whole group kind of thing, like he targeted all the dudes, and then like he's pretty interesting. His puppeteering kind of thing. I liked how when his fake body was destroyed in Magnolia, he went back to his body or something like that, and he's just like crouched down, ass up, like on the ship, like because he was in like puppet mode. He was in puppet mode kind of thing. So that was kind of funny. I think probably those 2 are probably like my kind of go-to, but I'm like leaning more and more towards the warrior girl, because I feel like there's something there that like we haven't seen her power. We have not seen her power yet, and I was just like, there might be something there that I might like. So I don't know. I think I'll go with her.
Or it's like, think about. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That's alright. I was just gonna say. I'll say that Damari is my favorite.
Well, I was gonna say,
Other-
think about
other-
how powerful it's been, like how powerful Kagura, like how powerful she's been,
Nice.
like demonstrating her sheer power,
Mhm.
and then it's like, oh, they landed she landed like a non-lethal, non-damaging strike right off the bat, just to show off. At that point, it's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, you think that you think you're just boom, all right, now you're
Not even just Kagura, but like the people around, they're like, "Do you sense it?" You know, it's just like,
Yeah,
it's
exactly,
it's
like-
over like this.
which is funny to think that like everybody, like now we actually get to see that same perspective from other characters, because you had Brandish show up, and you have Natsu, Urza, Gray, and they all have that moment of like, oh my
Yeah,
god,
the freeze moment. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
like, oh my god, and that was one of my favorites with the bloopers. It's like with Gray, it's just like, oh my gosh, her power's over 9,000.
Another Spriggan that we haven't seen really fight yet is the kind of like the I'm trying to think of like the title for him, but like he's the helper for Zeref. He's like the
Invo.
right hand guy.
Oh
the-
yeah.
Invo.
Yeah, so we haven't seen him fight, and I'm wondering how what his magic is, kind of thing. I mean, you can typically kind of like guess to some degree, like maybe
Yeah.
like form an opinion on what their magic could be based on their appearance.
Well,
But
and their
like,
name, because he's the the Ice King or whatever, or the
Yeah.
General.
Makarov also did say that he specializes in ice magic. I
Okay.
believe.
okay,
Yeah.
Which, so there's another one of your parallels of character
Right,
abilities.
right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's, which makes me wonder with especially considering during the lead up, which was really interesting to see that the lead up before the battle happened, when everybody was kind of like doing their own thing, like Natsu, Lucy, and Happy were hanging out. Levi and Gagio were doing some stuff.
apparently in the same bed.
Yeah, I
the
saw
same
that.
bed.
Like, I saw that. I'm like, yes. like
See,
my headcanon is now show canon, and I love it.
When I saw that episode, I saw Gajil in the bed. Okay, and it's like going next person, and then went to Levi in like the bed,
Yeah.
and I kind of thought I didn't even think about I didn't even see like the same bed kind of
Yeah.
thing. I didn't think about that, but I thought about her like Gajil and Levi in beds, like if anything, and I didn't say it in my reaction whatsoever, but like in my thought wise,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it'll be funny if they're in the same bed or something like that. But then
Yeah.
I never said it, and then Tribe brought it up to me that it was the same bed.
Yeah,
So
they
like,
really brought it up. It's like they separated it out enough that it like gave you that mental separation. But then
yeah,
I saw that, and then my video, like I had the same thing where it was like I didn't realize it.
yeah.
And then when I went back and I was editing, I literally like close everything, set the camera back up. I'm like, I need to put this in here now and put it at the end and point it out, because I don't want to get crap for missing it.
Yeah.
But,
Did you guys also notice that Panther Lily was like right outside?
He was
their
outside.
Yeah.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
It's like shun the cat, get him out.
Yeah.
But
I don't remember like exactly like what his face looked like, but I remember in the manga Panther Lily had like a really smug face, like sitting outside their house.
his face in the anime was just like sitting there,
His
just like with,
deadpan.
like, yeah, just deadpan, like staring off into space, like Panther
Yeah.
Lily apparently does. But I was
Okay.
gonna say though, with that whole setup with Gray, when I was talking about the ice magic, is I'm wondering what's going to be going on with Gray and Juvia, because I feel like with the teams kind of breaking out the way they are, I feel like because Juvia is on B team, but when it starts getting narrowed down, every single time Juvia ends up being there with Gray, and he even said with Juvia, it was like, I'll give you my answer after the battle.
He did, yeah.
And so that was one of those things where it's like it's been hinted at enough through the series, and finally it's been just brought up of like, look, I will give you an answer. Like, God, you've been hammering at getting me to answer you for however long.
Yeah.
Well,
And that
since,
really
yeah. since a long time.
That really goes to show, like, that this is the finale, right? Like, the fact that all these ships are starting to like gain a little bit of traction since they've
Yeah.
kind of been in stasis for like the longest time. But just the fact that we're seeing Gajil and Levy, actually together, and Gray, saying, "I'm gonna give you my answer after this is all said and done." It's kind of cool.
Exactly, and it's
Yeah,
this
yeah.
sort of like we're getting up to the end, and I've not been spoiled on anything, but I have a sneaking suspicion that, considering that I saw there's a manga coming out after this, I don't know how they get to it, but part of me is like, okay, so it's the end, but it's not really
Like,
the
could it be
end.
like a spin-off kind of thing, or like
I think it's a spin-off from what I've seen. I'm not going to go too far into it because I don't want to spoil anything or be, or get into something where
or get it right, like yeah, guess and get it right.
yeah. But like
Yeah.
I saw the title and it's one of those, like, I don't know how they get there and I don't want to get there, but I'm curious to see, because if they do it right, I'm really excited. Though I've had a lot of people be like, it's rushed. I'm like, yeah, but this is the anime where
Yeah.
some things made better, some things smoothed out. On the other hand, there have been some things made worse. I remember the Celestial Spirit arc, which was not actually in the manga. So yeah.
So actually, one little cool thing I wanted to tell you guys about the Spriggan 12. This is in Fairy Tail Volume 52 of the manga. Mashima does like a little like afterword thing at the end of every volume, just to like share his thoughts and like behind the scenes kind of things and stuff like that. So he wrote, about the Spriggan 12, there was a fight over the number 12. My editor was of the opinion that 5 or 6 would do. So in like the original concept, the Spriggan 12 was actually going to be the Spriggan 5 or 6. But then he said 12 is a lot of characters. It's hard to remember the names of all of them. And when each one has a battle, it makes you wonder just how long this arc is going to go on. But there's a bit of a secret reason for it, so we finally decided on leaving it at 12. So I thought that was pretty cool that it originally wasn't going to be 12 people.
There's a secret reason for it.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah.
It makes me think if it's a thing with Zeref, has some kind of like end game like scenario kind of in place with the Spriggan 12. Much like the Arashi Seis. Remember it was Zero? How like they had like the gate, like the locks like on Zero.
Yeah.
So maybe something like that with the 12. Like that's the reason why it was 12 exactly. Is some kind of spell he has in place for like some kind of end game thing or whatever.
Yeah, I'll hold my opinion about whether 12 is too much or not until we see how they handle each of them. Because so far it's been done fairly well, because they're actually showing like non-main characters teaming up with main characters, like with Urza and with firing Jupiter and all that.
One episode really isn't dedicated to one Spriggan 12 either. It's like a mix of like 2 to 3 like each episode kind of thing. We just kind of jump around. Like with the first assault on Magnolia, it was 3. It was Brandish in the bathroom basically, and then it was Wall. Who got into the shield, and then it was the sand guy up top. So like that was the first assault was 3. And then after that, I just kind of kept adding more battles around Magnolia to jump to look at the other Spriggan 12 and so on and so forth. So yeah. Hopefully they all get screen time.
That'd be nice.
I think it's definitely smart that he broke it up in like groups of 3, like seeing 3 in like each section of the war, and they're all spread out. I think that's a smart idea.
Yeah.
Well, because if he does groups of 3, then technically you only have to treat it like 4 segments, which would get too close to the 5 character thing.
I loved their when the battle episode first happened, when they were like playing when the assault happened and so on and so forth. I loved how they zoomed out to the map to see like the little chibi pictures and like flashing like we're gonna go over there now, and then like zoomed in. Like I love that whole thing. I wish they kept it all the way through. They stopped it after that episode.
It was so cool.
Yeah, it's like oh yeah, these guys are up there and these guys are over there and like these guys are over there, and like they flash like we're gonna go over there now. Like that was a cool concept.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, and the fact they brought back like this whole season so far, there have been so many things that have been callbacks that I love. So like the chibi style that you get with the ending, the my favorite is the fact that they now, because I think when they changed studios, like there was a very different, like there was a big difference in the soundtrack. Like it was different. It didn't have the same soundtrack as the first main like season before the Grand Magic games. But now they're back to it, and it has a lot of the songs from the original soundtrack, which just, as soon as I heard Dragon Slayer start playing,
Yeah.
I was just like, yes, they got the right sound back. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't mind the other soundtrack. Like, it grew on you, and there were some really good hits in there, but like stuff like Urza's theme and
Yeah.
Natsu's Dragon Slayer theme, all of those, or the Celestial Spirit themes and stuff like that, now that those are all back, it's like
Yeah.
everything has this very nostalgic feel to it in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me.
I remember.
she's
I
very
remember when. I think I want to say it was like the last episode of Fairy Tale 2014, like after Charteros had finished, and they played like this big montage of I don't know, just like the characters just like walking or something, and it played the original theme,
Yes.
the Fairy Tale theme,
Yeah,
and I was
that
like,
was-
oh my god, my heart.
That was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
hurt
that
my
was great.
soul, and I loved every minute.
That was a good episode. That was a really good episode.
That was a great episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Because it felt like the end, but it wasn't. That made me so happy.
right. It was a good pause. It was a good like break point like for the series for sure. So I'm trying to think
Yeah.
back of like stuff we kind of skipped over or glanced over in terms of stuff for this season.
You want me to ask chat?
Sure, go for it. Yeah. If
Sure.
anyone has questions, you know, because kind of in a way we're kind of like winding down the stream because we're just
Yeah.
about 2 hours now.
Yeah.
So we could definitely ask chat for what they.
Yeah, I'd love to answer
think.
questions.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
I'm sure there's 80,000 things that were on screen for half a second that we forgot to talk about. So.
Exactly. A lot of content. A lot of content.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff.
I can't believe that you missed the moment that Plu was on screen for 0.2 of a second when Lucy walked out of the door. How dare
Actually,
you?
Do you actually
I do
remember
remember.
those little characters they always put in every episode?
Yes,
Remember those little ones?
yeah.
I want those
missed
to bring
that.
to be back like every episode again,
know.
kind of thing.
Well,
But
'cause I
they
think
they
he-
stopped it a while ago.
Because I think that was more of just, I think Hiramashima put those in because it was a reference to was it Rave? I think it was what was it called? I think it was last manga was Rave something.
Rave
So-
Master.
Brave Master.
Rave
Rave
Master.
Master, yeah.
But Cobra, maybe they've been back and you just haven't noticed.
Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just like their outlines.
All right, so we have some questions. What is like a matchup that you guys want to see, or do you think is going to happen?
Urza versus the Warrior Girl. That's definitely it's
That'd
definitely
be
two.
cool.
I would think. I'm trying to think of like each Spriggan 12 individually. So, like for instance, Wall. Like who would you think Wall would be good against?
I mean, I think they're leading into him facing off against Loxus, and that I think would be the most fitting fight for those two.
Mhm.
I definitely want to see. I feel like I want to see August face off against Makarov, and the only reason for that is because I want to see like two people who care about their teams very dearly, who are old and very skilled in their magic, fighting one another. Like
Right.
that would be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I want to see Ward fight. That's gonna be badass to see him fight.
I want to see Ward fight. My only concern is that if God Serena is so powerful, my fear is that just to push the type of story they're aiming to push,
Mhm.
you're going to end up getting sort of a like, look how powerful God Serena is. He took out everybody. Like that's my
Right.
biggest fear is that he's going to clean house even with Warren.
On
Yeah.
the
So-
on the
What?
topic of God Serena, is there any theories as to what you think his magic might be?
Well,
Or
I don't think so.
considering- I just know that somebody pointed out the I don't know. I haven't really thought much of God Serena other than when I put up one of my thumbnails, and people are like, "Did you pick the thumbnail because he was dabbing?" I'm like, "No, but thank you for that. I'll never be able to unsee that now."
Maybe
I'll go
maybe
back and change
his
the thumbnail.
maybe his power is related to his big ponytails. He's gonna do something with those. Can you
It's like
imagine?
the oh gosh, like what was the thing from was it defrag where it's like spins the ponytails back and forth.
Easy to win.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure. We haven't had any hints to his magic. Not that I
wanna
know of. Maybe we have like hints, but like I just kind of shook it off as like common or like
yeah. Like just like a passing thing.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Mm,
So it could be
has to
anything.
it has to be insane because he is the #1 ranked wizard saint. So yeah, it has to be like unfathomable to get
He
that
won.
rank.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
No, I have no idea. Yeah.
I'm gonna guess light based or something like that because
I was also thinking about like maybe to control other magic kind of thing, like a cancellation sort of thing. Like that would make him like super strong in compared to others.
yeah.
Or some kind of like mind
Oh,
thing, mind powers.
Hmm.
No idea.
Maybe. I don't know because there have been interesting overpowered like magic types before that our characters have overcome.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the powers would be on these solely because of the fact that with how overpowered they are, it's like, okay, what will be the way to overcome? Because I don't know. I'm just worried.
The Achilles heel.
Yeah, because I'm just worried that there's going to be a lot of like, well, no, because Urza's was not a, pull a trick out of your hat and make it happen kind of attack. Like hers actually made sense. So I'm wondering if that's going to be similar to the others. But I mean, again, the whole thing of like the 12 characters, it's like how many of these 12 characters are going to be well thought out,
well, yeah, that's the thing. Like
fleshed out fights.
He was saying like 5 or 6, like the editor, not
Yeah.
the manga writer, but
right.
like
Hiroshima wanted 12, and
yeah.
the editor
So
wanted 5.
which 5 or 6 was like the ones he wanted to choose as like the actual ones, and who was the other 12 that like was not part of the first 5, or 6 or whatever.
Yeah,
I remember for the longest time that we thought Serena, like he looked like Makarov's dad, Yuri. Like we thought for the longest time that they looked like each other.
I can see
that.
that.
Just
yeah. The hair is too different though. That would be the thing.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Because unless my general theory with like characters being related to one another is unless they make a very deliberate effort to make the characters look like in more than one feature, because like there's only so many anime faces, so I'm like, if I see a character with a similar face, I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess, but I don't think much of it. If it's like, I mean, Lucy's character or Lucy's mom and Lucy's character design are so similar that it's like, duh. But
family, yeah.
Well, yeah, and like less so in their adult form. So like the kid character designs of Natsu and Zeref have some similarities in the facial features and in the, I mean, it's more just the facial features in general. So I guess that would be an exception to literally what I just said about not taking facial features as granted. Never mind. I'm done digging my hole. I'll you guys.
So what about favorite opening and favorite ending?
Out of all of Fairy Tail?
Yeah.
I still really like the Grand Magic Games ending. Or sorry, opening after the gates opened.
Opening 16.
Yeah, when the whole
back.
time Strike Back, that one. That one was a subtle hint at like the whole time reversing thing with the whole clock like kind of flipping out with the thing. That was a good opening. Good song, good opening. I mean it carried through. Like it was one of those kind of hype openings where like the song kind of went, and then like all the visuals kind of backed up the song. And in a lot of openings, it's kind of like the song's like the afterthought in a sense. Like they make the visuals, and then the song kind of goes over the top, and then kind of match it up that way. But with Strike Back, it was kind of the opposite. It was like the song came first, and then they're like, we gotta match it, kind of thing. So they added stuff to match the song. It just seemed that way, anyways.
Yeah, I was gonna say nostalgia is telling me the first opening because that's just my go-to period. Like,
that's a classic.
Yeah,
oh man, like I've done so many like attempted drum covers of that where I'm just like, not good enough. I'm not posting it. Not good because it's just such a classic song to me that I'm just like, nothing is good enough until it's perfect. And I haven't.
In terms of endings, like I'm not really sure. They all kind of like bleed together. For
I've
me.
never paid attention to the endings. It's usually just the openings. Like for me, I think I love opening 3, the first Tower of Heaven one.
That's a good one.
Blue in the beginning or whatever. Yeah, that one always stands out to me. I really like the Fiesta one with Horatio and States.
Yes,
that one's great. I have a soft spot for Rock City Boy.
I was just about to say I couldn't remember the name of it. That's another good one.
That was cool. And then lastly, I love the Believe in Myself from Tardos.
Yes,
I love that one too. Yeah, I love seeing the duality between like Natsu and Gray throughout the whole opening. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, those are my favorite.
Fun little thing. I did a drum cover of that one just to be like, hey, it's a fairy tale thing. I wore a scarf, and it was completely not worth it because it was hot because I was drumming, and it was a black scarf, and I wore a black shirt, so you couldn't see it anyway.
Nice.
I was like, cool, great,
nice. Anything else in question wise?
I'm still stumped on the ending thing because I don't really pay attention.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they all kind of do the same thing. It feels like
they blend together.
Yeah, it blends way too well together. Like all the endings.
I just the one that I remember the most is, again, it's the first ending, just because of the fact that it's such a stark contrast to the opening. Like the first opening is like, new adventure, this is exciting. Let's let's watch this. And then the really weird ending of like, it still was very clearly Lucy's story, So like the way that it fit in with her character, like it was more bubbly and girly and kind of thing like that.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite, but it sticks in my head because it was a very like, yeah, okay, I get that. Like it's Lucy still kind of figuring out this whole new adventure that she's been thrown into.
Right.
So with the Clockwork stuff that we have back now,
right.
New endings. So
yeah, that too as well. Yeah.
I've always been a fan of the Clockwork designs. It's cool. Anyway,
so this is kind of a reoccurring question. The Big G, Guild Arts. What do you is this his time to finally come back? What do you guys think?
I hope so.
I do too, but my feeling is that he might come back, and like I feel like he was kind of a lightning in a bottle character because we had this really powerful character that everybody looked up to except Kana, and and he and Kana had their redemption bit. They kind of reconciled as characters, as father and daughter, but you get this. He set the bar for power, but it's hard to think that after
to some degree, because he was having problems with a lot of the people he was up against. Like the battles weren't like just one hit KO like kind of things. Like
right, and that's
he was going against them like constantly trying to fight him, and then like getting an upper hand at the very end, to win or whatever.
I'd like to see him come back, but my thing is, you're right in the sense like I'm upset because like, oh my gosh, he's this powerful and he's struggling.
Right.
Same way that we had Natsu and the rest of the group just plow through all these enemies in the Avatar, and now they're struggling. So again, there's your scale of difficulty.
Right.
So how far have all the other characters come? And I would assume obviously that Guild Arts wasn't, sitting around twiddling his real and mechanical thumbs for, however long.
Well, apparently Natsu and him went toe to toe. That one, like when the 1 year.
Yeah, during the 1 year gap.
So he's around.
He's around, but it's like, is he, now that Natsu? I mean, I don't think he'd be anywhere close to as powerful as Natsu with the fairy or with the
yeah.
Dragon King. But I feel like I don't know if he's as powerful as Natsu at this point, or if Natsu's exceeded his power, or if he's still just powerful because screw it, I'm writing that he's more powerful because he is, like
Power friendship.
yeah.
Power friendship.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, to be fair, you gotta have friends for that, which Guild Art seems to be a bit of a loner.
Because okay, so like he didn't show up for the entirety of Tartaros. So like, and that was like such a like the characters at their lowest moment, right? So I feel like something really, really like bad like has to happen in order for him to feel like it's important enough for him to show up.
Ending. Yeah, like
yeah,
definitely
but,
world
then
ending.
He showed up on. Well, I mean, he was there.
He was already there at Tenor. Yeah,
he was supposed to be there for what they were doing anyway. So yeah, that was more of a like it's like one of those parties you show up to because you're just inclined to go. It's like, I guess I'll show up.
So. But after the events of Tartarus, that's when he kind of just like, all right, I'm out, kind of thing, basically. So
yeah, that was peace, and then Natsu took after him by just vanishing for a year, and it's like oh god, poor losers.
It makes sense.
I have all my friends I care about now.
It makes sense why Natsu left now, because he had the Dragon King power with him, and he wanted to be powerful enough to use it and use it well, because he knew that the power is finite, and he wanted to be able to like keep it forever, kind of thing. So he wanted, in my eyes, it made sense for him to train so that way he can train up to the point of using it for like one final strike against Zeref, basically to defeat him. So that made sense why he left, but he did leave like just abruptly, like left a letter and then just took off basically. So
yeah. Sorry, fam. Peace out. Like that's the end of it. I don't want to be that guy, but I'm going to have to start getting ready for work soon. So
no problem. Is there one more question, Tommy?
Any
I mean, someone asked, do you guys think that someone will get killed in this arc? And if you do, who?
I kind of, it's weird, but I kind of hope so, because we've gone through all of Fairy Tail. No one has, like, in the main cast kind of been killed off. I mean, side characters and so on and so forth that have been important to the main cast, of course. But we've always had, like, the death tease of like a lot of characters. Natsu's had like multiple death teases like constantly. Happy's
been the one time when he was absolutely going to die because he got shadows, and then he just got really, really hot, and they went.
Cool. So that every character, the main cast, anyways, has always had like the big kind of death tease. Even Makarov has had a death tease, kind of thing, like multiple death tease.
He's had like 10. Yeah. He's had like 10.
So like all these characters have like so many like points in time where like they are quote unquote dying, kind of thing. Like Loxus even was on the death's door. Yeah. So like everyone has had like their knocking on death's door moment. So I kind of feel like at the end of the story, it sounds bad saying it, but it would be interesting if one did die, kind of thing. Like I don't know who, but it would be interesting. But if you go based on what Zeref said, if Zeref dies, Natsu dies, then that might be the one basically is Natsu.
I know I get what you're saying. My only thing, or my at least thought with this is, first off, I don't think Hiro Mushroom as a writer is going to change his method, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, because I feel like what's going to end up happening is a very like, oh my god, they're not dead. Oh my god, like I feel like nobody's going to die, but I feel like there are going to be so many teases. Like I think if anybody were to die, I would think that it's probably going to end up being Zeref and Mavis, but only after reconciling their differences. I feel like that's the only way, because it's going to be this like, we've made peace and now the curse is broken, but we're both gone. And then there's a BS way to save Natsu because he is one of the main characters. He's not going to die. Like there's going to be some BS way to save Natsu. I hope it's not a BS way, but like as of right now, just my guess, because I can't think of a way that they would save him, is, like Zeref and Mavis, maybe because they reconciled their differences and the curse was broken, that maybe the tie to the book is not there anymore.
Or yeah,
or
a way to
something,
split the
or-
book from Natsu, yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, because they had the connection, the magical connection thing that they would use to tie their feelings to one another or whatever,
Right.
or tie the pain to one another. I feel like that would end up being something where it's like, if they can break that, maybe there's a higher level of that can break a connection like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. But I don't think anybody's gonna die.
I mean, the opening was it the opening or was it the ending? I think the opening had a moment where Levy is like reaching out, like freaking out kind of thing, and Panther Lily is like holding her down kind of thing, like right after the Gagiel bit or whatever like that. We see Gagiel.
Yeah.
So like maybe that might be
Actually,
the
that would be
tease,
interesting.
or
maybe, because that would be because what if? Well, so.
And who knows how long that is in the future? That might not be next episode, but just further down the line,
Because what if like Levy has Gagiel? Like, what if Levy actually has like Gagiel's kid, but Gagiel actually like dies during this arc? Like, that would
so
be
sad. Yeah.
that would be depressing. That would be the only ship I genuinely care about sinking right before my eyes.
But yeah, I definitely do think if anyone does die, it's gonna be memorable and it's gonna impact everybody. Like, that's definitely what's gonna happen. If the main cast, like anyone in the main cast, Natsu dies, Gagiel dies, anybody, if anyone does die, it's gonna impact everybody's like story kind of thing, and it's gonna weigh heavily on everybody, because like everyone's family and these characters have been around forever. The Thanes are gonna be like impacted by it, and like all this kind of stuff. It'll be a good story. It's gonna suck, but it's gonna be a good story.
My thing is, I feel like if that had, I mean, I do my best, and I'm sure you do as well, to avoid spoilers, but I feel like if something that huge happens, like, think of how hard it is to avoid spoilers, even if just the mundane ones. I feel like if there was that big of a spoiler, it would have been this just, we may not have even known the context of it, but it would have been already brought straight to our attention of some level of like, oh my gosh, this happened. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but prep yourself.
Well, luckily, I have people like Try and Xanadarium, and like I have a whole host of people like over all my shows, not even just Fairy Tale, but just like all my shows that kind of read comments and everything for me. Delete the super hardcore spoiler ones, allowing me to like read the actual good ones and all that kind of stuff. So I'm in like a good boat on that, where like I'm safe for a lot of things. I mean, some things might creep through, but just ultimately, I haven't been spoiled in a long time. The last big one was Gray. Like, someone on a live stream, someone mentioned like Gray dying in the
Was it during the Grand Magic?
Yes.
During the battle when it was like because I saw that because I remember seeing that, and it was one of those, I saw it, and during the video, I mean, you know this, during a reaction video, you are engaged.
Right.
And then once it started kind of rearing down and you get to the ending, and I'm sitting through the ending, because it happened, I'm like, oh, and then when I got to the end, so how are they going to reverse this? Like, that was my first thought, was like, how are they going to make this
how are they
going
to fix this?
Yeah. And because that's the thing, is it's like, because when I went to college for like, I did classes on writing and classes on, like when and my writing was never really the best, which is why I stuck with editing. My thought process ended up being sort of a like, let's do this, and then a bunch of people would kind of start constructing it, and then I'd be like, but what if this happened then? And I would just throw in like the little twists and mixes.
Right.
So it's like some of the stuff like that, there are elements when I kind of look at, like with the whole thing with Mavis and Zeref and Natsu and their connection, where it's like characters dying. It's like, if they build it up correctly, so far the biggest characters that Zeref is the antagonist to, he's a general antagonist, which means that he doesn't really have many specific people to antagonize. The main ones he antagonizes, Natsu and Mavis, because they're the ones who have the closest connection. And
to some degree, Gray.
and to
some
some
degree.
degree Gray, but
Yeah.
I think the only reason for that is because of the ties to E and D.
Right.
And so I feel like with specifically working with Zeref as an antagonist, if he can reconcile his differences with Mavis and Natsu is able to somehow break connections or break ties, then logically in the way the story is written, then he no longer needs to be an antagonist. And for lack of a better term, Mavis is the waiting damsel, not a damsel in distress, but just waiting to have
Right.
something resolved with her history.
Yeah.
And so in
She's
one fell
trapped.
swoop,
Yeah.
exactly. So in one fell swoop, by resolving Mavis, or by having these two reconcile their differences, he's no longer an antagonist to Mavis. Mavis is no longer tied down by him. They are finished, and the only thing is to settle the score of whatever Natsu's deal is.
Right. Definitely. I definitely do think that the end should definitely have something involving Mavis and Zeref. That's definitely like, because they've been around since the first like whatever, they've been around forever. They've been talked about. They've been mentioned. I mean, Mavis kind of jumped in at the Tenra arc kind of thing, but Zeref has been around, mentioned at least, for much longer kind of thing, but their stories intertwine and have been for a long time, and we're just now kind of learning a little bits and pieces about that history. And so it kind of seems like it is kind of wrapping up, because it seems like whenever you do character stuff, very little about a character, and then all of a sudden you know a lot about the character, and then the character's dead.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So it seems like we're kind of leaning towards that. We're like, we didn't know a lot about Zeref or Mavis, but now we're starting to know a lot more about him. We know a lot about Mavis's past because of Zero and everything like that, or Fairy Tale Zero,
Right.
but we didn't know about her being cursed. We didn't know about the Lumen Histoire. We didn't know about anything of that.
Right.
We now know about the reason why she went in there. We know the past with Zeref and Natsu is tied to Zeref, and all this kind of stuff. So it's like it's all kind of boiling down to like, okay, now the end's gonna happen. Like how big of an end is it gonna be, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Definitely.
Well, I gotta get ready to go.
Yep.
Well,
I think
on
this
that
is a good wrap up. Go for it, really.
Yeah.
Are we able to fit just one more question?
All right, real quick.
Sure.
It's very short.
Real
So,
quick.
Dude Lost, it's not necessarily fairy tale related, it's more Mashima related, but it kind of ties in. But they were wondering if you would watch his newest manga, Eden Zero, if it was animated into an anime.
I'd review it, because I've already said that I'm not going to do like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're
Yeah.
not doing reactions.
Sadly, SteelFrodo is not going to do any more reactions after Fairy Tale. He's going to do reviews.
Fairy Tale logo tattoo, though. I'm going to get the Fairy Tale tattoo
Nice.
somewhere on me.
Nice.
Yeah, because it was kind of the big one. Like, it was kind of the first show to really spark popularity on my channel, and it'll be the last reaction on my channel for like a full series. So figured it'd be fitting.
Yeah.
It's that when I'm 80 years old and my grandkids that, I'm like, let me tell you.
Back in my day. Yeah, so I would definitely check it out, at least, kind of thing, if it was animated, for sure. I will check it out. But yeah, I mean, I know people kind of didn't really like, well, there's like a split kind of group that didn't like the Rave Master stuff. Like, some did, some didn't. Like, or something like that, because like there was like a hit and miss. But when it comes to Fairy Tale, a lot of the fans did like Fairy Tale a lot. With like a spark kind of group that didn't really like Fairy Tale for certain reasons, but kind of in a way were still interested in Fairy Tale. So like most people were still interested in Fairy Tale. But yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah, I would definitely, because if anything, it'd make an interesting review to see like what he's doing after Fairy Tale.
Yeah.
And also, before I go, it's 8 minutes before my Fairy Tale reaction for episode 18 goes live. So anybody in the chat is looking forward to that. Works out pretty well. Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. So
it's like 5 minutes till this episode comes out.
Yeah, I usually try to set my schedule them. I try to get them out by 4:30. If I miss the chance to schedule them, they'll be out at like 10 at night here. So sorry.
All right, so thank you guys so much for joining us. We have 47 concurrent viewers all the way through this stream, which has been incredible. So hopefully, if you're up for it, we could do another one of these at the very end as like a final kind of fairy tale wrap up
Yes,
extravaganza kind
absolutely.
of thing. It would be awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah, look forward to seeing more fairy tale. Obviously, hopefully some of the things we talked about, our theories and ideas about stuff, come true. So hopefully some don't, in terms of like
I hope
some
so. My
some
fear-
stuff.
My biggest fear, because I've done this before with other shows, and people constantly accuse me of like, you read the manga. I'm like, well, yeah, up to where we're at. Like, I haven't read past, but I'll take guesses, because I'm like, if the story goes this way, this is probably what's gonna happen. I did the same thing with Ruby, and I got a couple things right. And so people like,
Yeah,
I
it's like,
can't.
you've
like,
seen
I wasn't
ahead.
wa-
You watched.
Yeah, they're like, you've seen ahead. I'm like, it's not out yet. Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? So it's like, that is always my fear, is when people are like, you read the manga or you watch ahead. I'm like, no, why? It's like,
All right.
do you not see this?
So
Anyway,
that is it from us. Thank you, StealFrodo, for
Thank you.
joining us once again.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you, Tommy, for moderating chat for us. Thank you, Relu, as well, for
Yeah.
joining a little bit
Yeah.
late, also
Always a
moderating chat
pleasure.
for us. And thank you,
We
Tri,
both.
for joining us and pitching in where you could, kind of thing. It's been a big help across the board for everyone on my channel, helping me with fairy tale reactions and so on and so forth. So it's going to be really cool to see how the story finishes off. And like I said, we could definitely jump back into another discussion at the very end.
Definitely.
It's going
I'd
to be
love
really
to.
fun. So yeah.
We'll see if we can grab Shark as well when he
Yeah.
eventually finishes in
Yeah, it's
2
gonna
years.
be a long time.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
gonna be a long time.
I don't think I've
He's
ever been in a chat with Shark, but yeah, that'd be awesome.
Shark is
Yeah, well,
barely reaching 2018 right now. I think he's
Really?
in 2018.
he's in
started late.
2018, but he's not quite up to where you guys are.
He's
He
doing
started
one
really
episode
late.
at a time, and so
He's taking
he's
his
got
time.
he's got a ways to go.
He'll
But I
get
mean,
there
hopefully,
eventually.
if he does, perfect. I would love to get him in here. It'll be awesome. But yeah, that's it for us right now. Thank you guys in chat for joining us, and we shall do this again at another date. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in our reactions and things. Take care. buddy.
Yeah. See ya.
Ciao
See
now.
you.